Okay, this is Trophy Gold, the Death Ziggurat, Part 2. If you are watching this video and you have not seen Part 1, this is probably not going to make a lot of sense, so I recommend going back and watching Part 1. If you're interested in Trophy Gold or the Death Ziggurat, we'll have links to those things in the show notes. I'm not going to have us introduce ourselves again, but I do want to do a quick bit of housekeeping and then a recap of where we were last time, and then we'll just dive right back into the incursion. So housekeeping wise, I want to go around the table and find out a few different pieces of information from everyone. This is for viewers of the video as much as for us, by the way. I want to know what your ruin is. Actually, I want to know how many hunt roll tokens you have. I want to know what your ruin is. I want to know what your burdens are and your conditions. So essentially that little block of information that's kind of down there. I would also like to know how close are you to meeting your burdens, with the reminder that you get 2 gold for finishing the adventure, right, and doing what you were sent here to do. So let's just go through. Adrian, let's start with Triss the Quick-Footed. How are you doing with all that stuff?
So I have 2 items that are worth 1 gold each, and I have 0 tokens because I spent my last one at the end of the last session, and I have a ruin of 4 from a starting ruin of 2, and I have 3 burdens.
And what conditions do you hold right now?
Unnerved and fearful of the cosmos.
Oh, interesting. The second one's really interesting. Fantastic, thank you. Okay, Blaine, let's talk about Nima the Bloodletter, please.
All right, so Nima, her ruin is 2 right now. She has 1 hunt token left over. Her current conditions are unnerved and drained, specifically of blood. I have 3 burdens, and I have 2 pieces of equipment worth 1 gold each. So assuming we complete the mission, I am 1 over my burdens.
Fantastic, thank you. And Merwin, tell us about Vanek the Sullen.
Vanek has 3 hunt tokens because I'm a miser, 3 ruin, and 3 burdens. He also has 2 items worth a total of 6 gold. One of those he's very firmly, just holding for everybody, but last man standing and all.
Fair enough, yeah. Fantastic, good. That was the spiral crown. Let's swing over just a quick recap. So you all had traveled to this sort of frozen northerly land at the behest of a group of priests or monks, really. And they told you about, essentially, there's some kind of like demonic apocalypse that is brewing here in this place where you're at. You arrived and there is a massive depression in the earth, like a giant crater that spreads a couple of miles in diameter. And within that crater, I highlighted a few things for you. I noted that to the east of the crater, there's a frozen lake. To the west, there was the early embers of some sort of camp being made. To the south, there was a great cave opening. To the north, there's this like funnel of mist or fog rising up out of the ground. And sort of in the center, there's this spiral chapel, which is interesting because most of the other structures in this crater are in ruins, but this one is still standing. You we're looking for the location of this demonic energy in order to destroy this demon or whatever's causing it, right? Whatever's going to cause this, you're trying to stop it. And you started in the southeast, and you noticed that there was another camp, but not in the crater. And that other camp of people seemed to be doing rituals that are raising the dead, because you had to scramble with some dead things early on. But you did get down in the crater, you went into the cave, you did discover some zombies type creatures in there, and you managed to, you came up with a plan to defeat them. You did not complete that set. That set had a goal of learning how to open, quote, open the rotting mouth. We don't really know what that is yet. But you eventually left that cave the next day, actually, went to the spiral chapel, which is kind of in the center of this crater. And around there, like a few things happened, key things. One, you managed to find this spiral crown, which seems to be some sort of object of power. It is indeed very valuable. And also, I believe it was Nima, had an encounter with a creature called Sarku. And importantly, Sarku seems to be attacking people on the, down there, and attacking people who come down there and draining them of their blood and hanging the husks up above on trees. That's just a, you know, everybody has their hobbies. Importantly, Sarku told you that he used to be a servant of this demon you're looking for, Akünh, and that when he essentially like betrayed Akünh or decided to not follow Akünh anymore, Akünh cursed him and turned him into this like sort of strange blood-sucking creature. Importantly, even more importantly, he informed you that the only way to truly destroy Akünh is to destroy her heart, which is at the in the ziggurat that where she's being held. And so you're kind of looking for this ziggurat. You have not seen a ziggurat yet, but you have some clues about what to do here. Sarku also mentioned that the encampment inside the crater, that the people there know more about what's going on. So that might be a good lead to follow up on. So with all that said, first of all, did I miss anything? Is there any other like little details about the overall adventure that I missed that I need to be reminded of? Assuming that's a no, we'll just get going. So I think the last thing we saw was you all acquiring the spiral crown. I'll tell you, I'll give you for free, there's nothing else to do in the spiral chapel, so you can kind of be done with that place. Let's just have that scene at the end there. Role play for a bit, and I'll chime in when I feel the need.
Nima, I heard you talking to someone outside. What was that?
It was the demon's apprentice. And I think Nima looks, and she was already kind of middle-aged, but she looks older now, and she's leaning very heavily on her walking stick, looks very sickly and pale. I believe that those in the camp are priests of the demon. And her old apprentice told me that they know how to get to the ziggurat.
Well, the priests are supposed to have the keys, from what our patrons told us. But you're not looking so well.
I'm well enough to press on. I do not delight in meeting priests of Dread Akünh, but I do not know if we have any other choice.
Well, I should say Triss managed quite handily inside, and we have come out with this rather glorious crown, which I think we should tuck away for the time being. We can divide up the spoils when we reach civilization once again.
Sounds like it's time to talk to whoever is exactly at that camp up there.
Agreed.
It is, at this point, probably like late morning. it's light out, although the light is quite gray and you don't really see the sun. It's very cold. There is a lot of frost on the ground. I'm curious, Vanek, you have the condition rot. How is that manifesting right now? And are you sharing that with the group?
I'm not sure Vanek even knows he has the rot. The last we left him, when he received the condition, he knows he was struck by the beasts, the strange undead creatures, and I remember he remarked that he was not interested in going out that way, and he was scratching, he didn't know what he was scratching at. It's just that's where he got hit. So he may not even know, being bundled up in his furs and whatnot, that he's even got a condition.
Oh, interesting.
Could just be dry skin.
Fair enough. I'm curious, just kind of keeping on this theme a little bit. Triss, you have the condition fearful of the cosmos, specifically that the stars in the sky are terror. Are you comforted by the fact that you can't see the sun, or is it something else entirely?
I think Triss wants to accomplish as much as we can before nightfall. So we might be able to go back to that cave or anywhere else where we are not under open sky. So he's a little on edge and kind of will be pushing for speed.
That's great. So it sounds like you're all going to the encampment then. That's the last thing I heard. From where you're at, the encampment is about half an hour walk. I want to get a sense of what you're doing as you approach. Are you just walking right up, or are you approaching it a little bit more surreptitiously or stealthily? What do you think, Nemo?
I think that Nima would probably, and I think that Nima is not in the best of shape, but she's really trying her hardest to not show, between being unnerved and having lost a lot of blood. I think she's kind of moving more slowly than she normally would. I think normally she'd kind of bull in a china shop, rush ahead, but I don't think she has the strength to do that right now. So I think especially as they got closer to the camp, she would slow down. And I think both Triss and Vanek are a little bit more well-suited for approaching quietly. So I think she would kind of fall back a little bit and let them start to take the lead and signal, how we want to play this.
Well, then I'll cut over to Triss. I mean, Triss, what do you think here?
I think Triss is going to go to the lead, wishing that he still had his spyglass that was lost last session, and so we'll have to press on without that. And I think we're trying to avoid making any noise as we move closer to the encampment.
I like that. I'll let you have a hunt roll, Triss. Maybe evasion or distraction. I don't know. What do you think in terms of skills?
Yeah, I think that basically evasion would probably help. All right. So just a second. Right. So I'm rolling 2. That's a 4.
You get a token. Go ahead and note it, that you encounter something terrible. I think you're doing a pretty good job maybe getting sight of the camp without being seen, right? And it's daytime, and I think that these people are probably mostly nocturnal. And so you will see a lot of tents. You will see the sort of dying embers of last night's fire. You will see one of these priests. They are walking out. Let me describe them for you. They're kind of coming out of their tent. The priest is wearing black robes and a wide-brimmed, or a black robe with a wide-brimmed kind of cylindrical hat with black veils coming down, covering their face. And perhaps most disturbingly, on the priest's chest, kind of going down their chest like a slit, there is a mouth. And I don't mean like a decoration. There's like a big toothy maw on the priest's chest. And he goes over to what appears to be some kind of like locker or chest and flips it open and pulls out what appears to be a human leg, still somewhat fresh, dripping with blood, and opens the maw and just shoves the leg in. It seems to just go inside of him like his mouth is a void, or the mouth is a void, like his chest is a void, and just like kind of crunches it, and you just see the foot gradually being pulled in until it's gone. What do you do?
Trying to step behind a tree and not being seen, and looking back towards my companions, whether they have also witnessed this.
I don't think so, just you for now. Let me tell you the set goal. Our set goal here at the camp is, let me find it, acquire one of the priest's keys to the Death Realm. I shall type that for you. Vanek, you might, as you're approaching Triss's position, you might see Triss turn around, perhaps Triss, if this is fair, looking shocked and pale, having just seen something. I think you're still a little further behind, Nima. Vanek, what do you do?
I whisper forward. What is it?
I think we're looking at an encampment of, I think I just saw, I'm not even sure how to describe it, but there was a severed leg, and it is now, I saw it, I saw one of the priests, and I don't think I want to lose my leg the way I saw whoever it was, whose leg was just devoured by something. If that priest is even human or whatever it is, that person's not dancing anymore.
Vanek is.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Vanek.
Vanek is pretty grim at this point. But you only saw one priest? Sorry, he's whispering. But you only saw one priest?
Yes, they were stepping out. maybe we should observe, and they didn't seem like people that we would like to encounter a lot of. Maybe we should try to get a hold of the one if it steps out of the encampment again. What do
I
you
think,
think?
Nima, you can have caught up at this point if you wish.
All right, yeah, I think she's kind of, when she sees that they're kind of huddled and whispering behind a tree, she'll do her best to kind of duck in and stay hidden from the camp.
Just a question. So these corpses in the trees, there were a lot of corpses in the trees, right? So they were still, like, they had the legs and everything.
Yeah,
So
they were
might,
intact. Yeah.
Okay, intact. But we might be able to acquire a leg or something else like this if we cut down one of the corpses from the trees back at the citadel, or the
Yeah, that was a little closer
chapel.
to the chapel. Yeah.
Yeah. Trish says, in any case, I think we should try to confront one of them at a time, if we even want to confront them. If one of them steps out again, maybe we can try to set a trap or catch them somehow.
Maybe. How were they dressed? I only ask because I'm wondering if they are part of the bodies that were strung up in the trees, if they form some of those.
It's difficult for me to say. I saw a big mouth opening, and they were wearing some kind of robe or something.
Nima, were any of the bodies in the trees wearing, were any of the bodies in the trees wearing robes? Do you remember?
I will tell you that, yes, I think there probably were some that matched the description.
There were a few. I wouldn't say that these cultists make up Sarku's primary targets, but when one needs to feed, I suppose.
Do you think we can disguise ourselves as members of this group if we get their robes?
It's a possibility. I suppose it would depend on how many there are here. If it's a small enough camp, they might notice any unfamiliar forms, but it is certainly based on what you have said, I definitely don't think we want to confront the whole camp.
I was thinking more in terms of if this Sarku fellow is positively indisposed to you, perhaps we can lure these priests into his domain.
That is a possibility. He does not seem to be repulsed by our presence in a way that I think he wants to do us harm, at least right now. So possibly bringing one of these priests to him to feed could not only get us what we need, but also continue to appease Sarku. If it comes to fighting him, I don't think we would survive.
This is an intriguing plan. I mean, are you thinking that you go find Sarku again and convince Sarku to go do this plan with you, or do you find Sarku again and then just lead a priest there and hope Sarku does what Sarku does?
Well, I'm thinking more in terms of if we need a direction to run in, Sarku is the direction to run in.
I think, like, generally orienting yourself back toward the chapel is probably the best thing in that case, then, I would say. Yeah.
yeah, I'm Vanek is liking Triss's plan to see if we can corral one of them, but if it fails and we get the whole mob after us, retreating back into Sarku's territory, that's what I'm thinking.
I love it. Who wants to do the roll? It was kind of Triss's plan, but kind of your plan as well, Vanek. So I'll let you two decide. In any case, one of you can help the other, I think. So
Go ahead, Vanek.
All right, I have layers, which should help.
I love it. Yeah, that's a perfect skill.
And
So let's be really clear about what the stakes are here first.
Yep.
Like, you're trying to capture one of these priests or kill them. Like, what are you trying to accomplish at the end here?
I think, well, I want to verify with Triss, but I think our goal is to capture one so we can uncover more information.
Yeah, I think so.
And if we get a key out of him, great. Or her, yeah. I don't know what they are.
Yeah, that's great. So capturing one, good. Let's talk about out of character. What could go wrong, Adrian and Blaine? Any thoughts here? I'll say that you have to fight one or more.
Sure. The hellmouth or whatever it is on them is activated again, and someone might lose
a limb. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's more. I was just going to say we alert the camp to our presence, but I think that's the hellmouth is more interesting.
I mean, it's for the failure condition, it's my choice, but I like everyone's contribution. You get 1 die for the skill you've noted, Vanek, and then you get another light die if you accept a devil's bargain. My devil's bargain is going to be I'm going to go with a particularly punitive one to see if your fellow players can come up with something a little less so. Mine is no matter what, you lose a hand.
I guess in a similar but less grisly version, maybe in the scuffle, the hellmouth eats some piece of equipment or something of importance to Vanek that isn't a body part.
Kind of building upon the alerting the camp. I think we no matter what we learn that these mouths also scream.
I like that. It's very wide open for me, but I like it. Good. So I think a dark die is probably automatic here, Vanek, because this is pretty risky what you're doing in terms of your mind or body, really, at this point. That means that the help roll is available if one of your companions wants to do the help roll. You can do it after Vanek makes the roll, but yeah, so Vanek, oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, I think Nima would want to step in, and I think using like her strength to help if we're capturing this. Yeah. Strong armor. I think that particularly she would want to kind of put herself in the way because Triss is starting to look a little beat up.
Yeah, and acting funny about the sky, probably, I imagine, in my version of the story. Good. Okay, so you can roll that after the fact, though, if you need to. Let's take a look at your die roll then, Vanek. You've got risk 2-1, 2 light, 1 dark so far.
Just so I have this right, it's not a hunt roll, it's a risk roll, right?
It's a risk roll, yeah, because we're going straight to capturing the guy. So
okay. Which devil's bargain did you accept?
I haven't yet. So
Oh,
right
Okay,
now
yeah.
I'm at right
Yeah, I
now
think so.
I'm at 2 dice, right? You start with 1 and then I have 1 for my lair skill.
Yes. So you got 1 light, 1 dark, and then I for some reason I thought you'd accepted a devil's bargain. Which devil's bargain are you going to take, if any? You don't have to get it.
So my 3 choices were lose a limb, lose something besides a limb, which are given the GM, I'm sure I'd lose that super valuable crown, which I'm not interested in losing. And what was the third one? Oh, Screaming Mouth.
Mhm.
Oh man, I need that hand to scratch my itch there. I guess we'll go for the Screaming Mouth. That
Okay,
seems
good.
good.
Yeah. So all right, risk 2-1.
Okay.
That is a success with a complication, and also I think your ruin is going up if you keep that roll because it's 5 dark. If you keep that roll, I will tell you that at this point, if you wish to do the help roll, you can, Nima, to maybe try to bump it to a 6. The complication is going to be that I think the complication is basically going to be kind of a variation of some of the stuff we're talking about. Um, the scream is actually going to alert more of the camp, but you otherwise capture the priest. So that is what's going on there. If you want to avoid the possibility of the camp being alerted, you either need to get a 6 on your help roll, Nima, or Vanek can re-roll by adding a dark die. So if you want to start with the help roll, just say how you're exposed here. Nima.
Okay. And what would happen, like, if I rolled a 6 on my help die, would that negate the ruin going up, or would the ruin still go? Would Vanek's ruin still go up?
No, Vanek's ruin would not go up because the new die is the 6th light. So
Okay.
because it's the highest at that point.
So yeah, I think I mean I want to at least try that
Okay.
and see if we can avoid having Vanek's ruin go up. So I mean I think in the plan, largely the way I'm exposing myself to risk is I'm just kind of going behind the priest and kind of bear hugging him to
Right, putting your
neutralize
hands
him,
right by the mouth, on
which
the chest. Yeah,
could very well expose me to the hellmouth.
yeah, I love all that. Okay, so go ahead and roll weak /weak.
There we go.
Woo!
Hey, it's 6. That's what you needed. So the result is a 6 light. Awesome. And a 6 does not match any of the dice on the table, so you are your ruin does not go up either. Doesn't get better than this, folks. So go ahead and Vanek, just start the scene from the point when you're trying to lure one of the priests out. You have full control here. What does it look like?
So between the 3 of us, we position ourselves at the edge of the camp, slightly out of obscured by the woods that we have access to, and Nima is going to tap gently on her hourglass to attract the one priest that has come out to feed and hasn't gone quite back in yet. He or she is just reaching the tent entrance to go back in when there's that little ting out at the edges of his or her perception. And they turn around to look, and we continue to tease it with rustlings of leaves or a snapping of a branch to lure it away from the camp. And as it moves, depending on how it hears, how effectively it hears, as it moves into the forest, the 2 of us on the outskirts, on the outer edges of this pincer movement, will come in behind it and close its path off to going back toward the camp. And as it turns to see one of us, Nima can pounce on it from behind a tree and wrap her arms around it.
Pick it up from there, Nima. Yeah, pick it up from there, Nima.
So I think, and I mean, Nima is still feeling pretty weak. So I think she definitely, like, even though this is successful, she kind of, you can tell when she launches herself forward and kind of lets go of her walking stick so she can get both arms around this. She staggers a little bit and drives this priest or this cultist forward. And I think, like, never having encountered someone with a mouth in its torso before, she's kind of trying to grope to, like, both cover his mouth and maybe, like, apply enough pressure with her elbows to, like, force this hell mouth in its chest closed.
I
But
will say this though, per the Devil's Bargain, it does get a scream out.
yes, that is.
Not enough to alert anyone, but the scream, just go with me here. The scream somehow reaches into the death realm, whatever that means. And I'd like to know what each of you observes in the environment that shows there was a thinning between the veil between this realm and the death realm. Think on it for a moment. And whoever has an idea, throw it out.
Tris is watching this scene unfold, and behind the priest, like in the sky, we see a single star appearing, and Tris becomes pale.
Any other thoughts, Vanek and Nima, about how the death realm sort of lurches forward a little bit?
I think maybe the trees around us, the bark, at least for a moment, turns to, like, pallid, dead flesh on all of the trees.
Yeah, it's good. Anything to add, Vanek?
I think from Vanek's perspective, he would probably feel like he's lost his ability to speak, and the area that the rot is in would expand considerably.
Ah, good.
And the other thing that he would see for the other two would be their shadows may take on the forms of whatever death they nearly experienced. So Triss may be burned by lightning, and Nima her shadow has a rope around its feet and is upside down, hanging from a tree.
Nice, I like it. That's great. I will also say this. You will notice, Triss, since you're not like directly involved in the capturing attempt, you'll notice that upon the scream, the appearance of the star, the fleshy tree, the strange shadows, you'll notice that at the same time, there's something glowing white and hot beneath the priest's cloaks. Like you see it like pulsate, putting off some kind of glowing light. And then when everything goes back to normal, when the scream stops, it also stops glowing. But you have this priest in hand. So what do you all do?
I think
Is
we
it
should.
sorry?
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, I think we should move away from here.
Is it a human kind of? I mean, or humanoid, or like? Do we see a face now?
Yeah,
that we're
if you pull
close?
back you pull back the veil, the face is of like a sort of middle-aged man with a
Okay.
graying beard, and yeah.
So
And
because
he'll say something like, "You should know, friend, that I do not fear death. I embrace death. I embrace the realm of our Queen Akünh. Strike me down now.
We'll see about that. And I think Triss just whacks him in the head with the back part of the rapier and knocks him out. And then I think we carry him off a little bit into the...
yeah, you can get away from the camp
from
a
the
bit. I
encampment,
think that's fine. What about then? What about that point? Let's say you go away a little bit, then what?
I imagine that Nima is the one carrying him, even though she's weaker than normal. She's an ox. And I think she sets him down, and the first thing would be to start kind of rifling through his robes, trying to avoid the Hellmouth. Like, even though he's unconscious, and I don't know if the Hellmouth is still active or if it's closed. Like,
it just looks like a row. It looks like a row of teeth, like a zipper going down his chest.
But I think her top priority would be trying to find the key.
The only thing you find on his body, well, do a hunt roll. I'll let you have a hunt roll for that.
All right. So I'm going to get the one die. Do I have any skills that I want to use right now? Or equipment. Let me see.
Maybe scissors from the sewing kit to cut open the ropes.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Or if there's like I was looking to see if there was like a scalpel or anything on the drop down.
I like scissors from the sewing kit. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. So I'll use that to kind of, cut the robes in parts where I think maybe there might be hidden stashes and stuff.
Go ahead and just roll hunt too.
All right. So that is a 5.
You do discover what the only thing on his body is he's wearing a medallion around his neck, and the medallion has like the image, a sort of stylized image of a ziggurat, and like strange like little carvings, like runic carvings around it. And the thing you encounter that's terrible is the moment you touch it, you get a glimpse into the death realm. What do you see, Nima?
I think I don't like this, but I think this is the right thing. I think because Nima is touched by Sarku, when she touches this medallion, she gets a glimpse of Akünh and realizes that Akünh knows of Nima's existence.
I like that. Good. And I won't describe Akünh yet. Well, it's enough for you to know, Nima. But the cycle is accomplished. You have acquired one of the priest's keys to the death realm. Your characters may not know that necessarily, but it's something we know as players. So, I'm answering your question wrong. Acquired. What do you do with the priest? Just leave him there?
Either that, I think Triss says, do we think that Saku's favor would be something we want to acquire more of and maybe bring this priest to them?
While I do not love the idea of just giving this person to Sarku, I also don't think it would be good for us to let him return to his camp.
I think we can use all the friends we can find down here.
Let's see if Saku has any use for them.
You immediately hear the snap of a foot on a twig somewhere nearby.
Triss steps back, kind of giving space to whatever is going to happen, and looks at Nima like, yeah, this is your thing.
Yeah, I think without even like looking in the direction of the twig, Nemo would kind of just sigh and say, "Hello, Sarku."
You see that gangly figure peek from around the tree again, just a single eye. And he sees the body, unconscious body, but he doesn't know that. And he says, "You are murderers after all."
Not yet, but we do have an offering for the great Sarku. Warm and perhaps delicious.
Sarku accepts your offering greatly, lustily. And if you watch long enough, feverishly, I shall help you, murderers. Dread Akünh is aware of you, and she approaches even as we speak.
This is
Triss,
Vanix.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Just that Triss averts his eyes to whatever is going to take place. I think the devouring of the leg was enough for today.
This is Vanix's first exposure to Sarku, and he has taken 3 steps back and is putting a tree or something between him and this creature, and has a hand on his pickaxe for lack of any other comfort.
Well, Sarku is happy for the offering and has even shared some information with you that Dread Akühn's on her way. So apparently she can move around a little bit from the ziggurat. But you have what you need, though. You know, the priests of Kretun who sent you here, they mentioned the key, right? And you've had enough hints that this thing is an object of power that seems to give peer into other worlds. What do you all do?
Well, quite frankly, I don't know what to do now. I don't know what that thing was, and we were told the priests have keys, but if we take a key away, does that mean that they can't open whatever door lets Akünh in, or do we have to close the door with the key?
I think we need to use the key to enter and ensure that Dread Akünh can never leave.
Well, this went quite well. We should leave Sarku to it and see if we can use the time we have remaining in this day to find out more about this place. What about that frozen lake over there?
Well, it's either the lake or the fog. I mean, we can't see into the fog, so a ziggurat may very well be within the fog.
True.
I hope it is not under the lake, because I don't know how to get there if that's the case. But we can certainly go to the lake first. That might be a simpler task, whatever, to see what is there.
If everyone's in agreement,
Aye.
you head out, and behind you, beneath the sound of your boots crunching on the snow, you hear Sarku enjoying his second breakfast, I suppose. There's a distinct sound of slurping and cracking of bone and exultation. And we'll take a 3-minute break, a 5-minute break. We'll come back in 5. The frozen lake.
I think Triss is in the lead again. I think that's kind of the thing we've settled into. Right?
Yeah. The frozen lake. So let me tell you the set goal. If I can find it, my text. Oh, here we go. Set goal: safely collect the icy water lilies. When you arrive, you see a lake covered in ice. It's frozen over. And all along, like kind of just, like on top of the ice, there is a great number of icy water lilies just resting on top. These are beautiful black flowers. And nearby, trapped in some half-frozen mud, there's a group of those red-eyed undead creatures just flailing around. No danger unless you walk right up on them, I suppose. But perhaps most interesting is standing in the middle of the frozen lake, there is a figure that is very tall, probably 8 or 9 feet tall, wearing a long, glittering black robe, like it seems to glimmer in the gray light. And this figure has, at your distance, it's hard to tell, either a helmet or it's their actual head, but there are great spiraling ram horns coming out of their head. And one of these zipper-like maws going down the full length of their body, much more dramatic, much longer than that of the Rot Priest. And they speak, even though they are several hundred yards away. They speak, maybe not that far away, but let's say like 100 yards away. They speak with a voice that you can hear perfectly clearly. And it's a voice that sounds like a dozen voices speaking at once. If you've played the video game Hades, they sound kind of like Chaos does. That's sort of like multi-leveled echoey voice. And they hold their hands out, they spread their arms wide, and they say, "I love this place above all other places here. It is my favorite place to visit. And when my followers complete their grand ritual and bring this world to its end, it is this place that I shall miss the most." Triss, you're in the lead. What do you do?
I think the minute or the second that he sees this figure, before he even starts to speak, he pulls up his cloak and like tries to cover his face so that his face is not seen. But I think we basically stepped out of the forest into like some kind of more open space, so there's not really any place to hide or something. So I think he just stops in his tracks and listens to that voice and waits until his companions are caught up with him next time.
Nima, you saw this being in your vision. And the being you saw, and I suspect you would see this if you were up closer, had 5 eyes placed symmetrically around their head. And indeed, the horns do grow out of her head. It is a woman, or at least has the appearance of a woman. And it says, "You were sent here by the heretics of Kretun to destroy me. I am here, awaiting you. You have but to cross the ice and meet me here in this place of serene beauty. Come. Come and meet me in combat, if you dare." Nima, what do you do?
So I think Nima's frozen there for a moment now. Now seeing in physicality what she had seen in her vision before, and kind of just stunned by the awful glory of the thing. But I don't think that Nima has any desire whatsoever to cross the ice and meet a dread demon in physical combat. So I think she's gonna look around and see like Nima has a pretty good knowledge of plants from being a farmer. Do I think that these lilies would be something that might help us in
Oh,
what we're
interesting.
trying to do?
I'll give you a hunt roll since you're asking a question about the world. You can take a 2-die hunt roll.
All right. There we go. That's a 6. I don't.
Nice.
This is unnerving me.
Take your token. I will tell you that if you collect all of these icy water lilies, they are worth a lot of money. And you will know that these water lilies, when dried out and turned to powder and ingested, they have strange mystical effects on the consumer. But nothing that you recall that would be particularly helpful right now.
Does Triss think that the ritual that he knows to obscure, hide a person or object from spirits would also be effective against that sort of being? Like what
Absolutely.
feeling does he have?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a spirit. Sure, it's a demonic spirit, but it's
Okay.
a spirit. I'm curious what. Oh, sorry. I just want to check in with Vanek. Vanek, what are you up to right now?
Vanek is more or less in shock. This is we're supposed to stop this creature from getting into the world, but it's already here. So what can we do? I mean, what's stopping it from just walking across the lake or moving across the lake on its own? He's kind of in shock here at the moment, and he doesn't have any particular knowledge of plants or understand what's going on. But if this is a lair of some kind. Is it currently closed? Is there some way to keep it from coming out?
I'll give you a hunt roll. Go for it.
Well, that ain't gonna do it.
3 light is a fail, but you don't lose any tokens. That's good.
Okay.
Or it's not a fail necessarily. I can tell you whatever I want, but you don't get any tokens, and you encounter something terrible. I will tell you this. It seems that the story, even Sarku's story, is the full knowledge of it, the full truth of it is you sense that Akünh is trapped, certainly, but only within this crater. She can move freely around the crater, but always has to return to the Ziggurat, right? The Ziggurat is what binds her to this place. And I think because you'll probably, I mean, I guess I would ask you this. Based off what you've seen so far in the crater, the cave, the ruins, the chapel, all that stuff, Sarku's hobby, how do you sense that, like, the demon, like that the whole place is the demon's lair, that this is, or really their prison, they can't leave? Like, how do you come to that conclusion?
Well, simply because if it wasn't a lair or prison of some kind, this thing would already, there are no shackles on it. There's nothing to keep it from moving out. And yet it remains here. So it is somehow confined or comfortable in this location at the moment.
And now something terrible. She says, "How completely disappointing when you are here at the very threshold of opportunity, your one chance to strike me low and to fulfill the wishes of your heretical masters. You are too cowardly to strike. Perhaps I should induce you. Perhaps I should encourage you to meet me here among these beautiful flowers, in this beautiful place, a beautiful end for all of you." And the mouth opens up on her body and lets out a scream similar to the one that the priest let out, except it's altogether more powerful. The scream, you can, all three of you sense that it's immediately burrowing its way into you, the sound, and you feel compelled to take steps forward toward Akünh, toward the frozen lake. The first one of you has a great idea for how to defend you all from this. I'm open to it, and I'll let you do the roll.
So I think Nima is going to try to, like, step forward in front of Vanek and Triss and kind of put herself between Akünh and the two of them and try to use her ritual ward to maybe cut off, at the very least, I think she wants to cut off Triss and Vanis from this, or Vanek from this, putting herself in danger to save them.
I love it. Stakes are pretty obvious there, or at least the goal is obvious. Continuing to talk about stakes, what could go wrong here, Adrian and Merwin?
Well, Well, if it's unsuccessful, yeah, I mean, a devil's bargain would be that just one of us is warded, I think. But what could go wrong is that, yeah, maybe contrary to what Nima was trying, basically, she only protects herself, but not the two of us.
Ah, intriguing. I would offer that like it just doesn't work, and all three of you are marching across the ice. So, but if Merwin, you have a more interesting idea than mine, by all means.
Depending on how nasty we want to get, the ice may be thin enough that we fall through, or at least
I was taking that as assumed.
Okay.
But I like where you're going with that. Let's talk about the dice. I mean, skills or equipment. What do you think here?
So I think that it's almost a combination of persistence and strength.
I like it.
Like both in a more metaphysical sense of her,
think
like
that's fair. Yeah.
trying to spiritually fight this thing.
My devil's bargain is you no longer have access to this ritual for the remainder of the adventure.
I like that one. I don't know if anyone else has something I would.
As far as the devil's bargain goes, maybe we not only have to deal with Akünh, but the red creatures getting free of the mud. One of us cracks the ice and the red creatures get free as well.
Yeah, maybe that's what you have to actually fight right now is the zombies, right? The red-eyed creatures. They're not red, but do you have an offer, Adrian?
Yeah, I mean, the one I gave, just one of us is protected, but I'm not sure that you're going to take that.
It's up to Blaine, so you have three offers there. Only one of you is actually, no matter what, only one of you gets, or I think I want to rephrase that to be like, no matter what, it's just not as powerful as you expected. No matter what, the zombies are free, or no matter what, you lose access to the ritual.
I think I'll take the losing access to the ritual. I like the kind of story feel of that. Like, it takes so much energy.
You're already drained
to repel a demon.
Yeah.
That it's impossible to use again.
Risk 2-1. Go for it.
All right. All right. So I got a 5.
Complication is going to be 5 light. Complication is going to be that. I think complication is going to be that the ward works, but just for the two of them. You are not like you have to basically you're on the outside of the circle essentially, and you're still subject to the power of the screen, right? So if you want to add a dark die, or if one of your companions wants to help you, by all means.
Oh, do I want to add a dark die?
I think Triss is because Triss was about to grab a small medallion that he's wearing around his neck and trying to cast his own ritual, but I think Nima was quicker, so I think I'm just going to kind of trying to add a little incantation or something to this and help.
I like it. And how are you exposed?
I think being too focused on that on Akünh, I might step too close to the zombies.
That's great. So go ahead and roll weak.
There we go.
Hey, there you go. 6 light. That's what you need.
Yeah.
Full success. Give me the fiction here. What does this look like? So, kick it off, Nima.
So yeah, I think as Nima feels herself being pulled toward Dread Akünh, I think that scares her a little bit, but then when she looks around and she sees that her companions are also starting to take steps forward, that's when like the true terror of everything that's happening sets in. And I think she musters kind of what strength she has still being drained and kind of rushes forward and, you know, kind of as cheesy as it is, Gandalf style, slams her walking stick into the ground and puts her one hand forward to try and put up this holy ward to at least sever this strange connection to her companions.
And
I,
Tris, put
I
the
think
moment
it,
of the top. Yeah.
yeah, I think in this moment, Triss kind of seeing Nima struggling with this ritual, steps next to her and murmurs some additional words that we can barely hear, and whatever energy or whatever kind of protection you have set up for us now also encompasses you and the three of us standing there, kind of withstanding this. And I think we basically we see us standing there, and then suddenly the scream we just cannot hear it anymore. Like as the screaming sound cuts off, and we can only hear like the sound of the water, where the ice is melted a little bit at the border of the lake.
I love it. Just because you're in the scene as well, do you have anything to add to this? Like, just what Vanek? Like, what is Vanek doing during this time?
Vanek is conflicted between watching out for the red-eyed creatures, which are making his arm itch even more, and the maw creature in the center of the lake that's threatening us. And so he's looking back and forth between the two, and as he's about to step probably closer to the red-eyed creatures, all of the warding kicks off, so he doesn't feel like he needs to move anymore.
Nice.
Can we see the red-eyed zombies being affected by the scream? Like, are they kind of being pulled in this direction or looking in this direction or whatever?
That's a great question. And yes, I think they can't move much, but they shift their bodies as much as they're able to, as if they also want to go across the lake, right? But they can't.
Because I think what Nima what Triss would like to do is try to free them somehow now that we are safe, so that they march towards Akünh across the ice.
Let me pick up the scene a little bit, because basically after the scream is over and after Akünh realizes that she wasn't able to draw you across the ice, she just disappears. She's just not there anymore. And it just leaves the three of you there, trying to catch your breath, watching the red-eyed undead creatures flail around in the half-frozen mud, and this beautiful, still frozen lake with the black lilies all across it. Let's just have the scene.
So, Triss, this was even more horrific than that priest. But it seems like we're getting closer to wherever we're trying to go. This was a close call, but we were able to withstand. Thanks to you, Nima.
Akünh definitely as much as a creature like that could feel fear, I think she knows how close we're getting. Thankfully, we did not succumb. And I think
we.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So let's have a closer look at these flowers over there at the lake.
Yeah, I think Nemo, I think she's incredibly weak right now, but kind of start limping over towards the flowers. And she says, I never thought I would see one of these, but I remember my father telling me about how valuable lilies grown on the edge of a frozen lake are.
These are literally on the lake, like they're on the frozen lake, right? To collect them, you would have to go out onto the ice to get them.
Well, the lake doesn't look all that safe to me, and I don't know what just happened with Akünh or whether she or it will come back. So at the very least, if you plan to go out there, or any of us plan to go out there, we should make sure we are roped to the shore so we can get back easily, or get back more easily. I'm willing to go, but just make sure you hold the rope tight.
We will.
All right. So I'm gonna go out, or yeah, I'm gonna make sure the rope is very firmly tied around my body and hand the other end to these two and sort of test at every step what's safe and what's not. And if I sense anything getting unstable or I'm unsure of myself, retest in a different direction until I can make it to the lilies, and then use my dismantling skill to remove them from the ice safely.
I like it. I think I think we'll just handle it all in a risk roll if you want. You've stated what you want to do, collecting the lilies. What could go wrong here? I think the main thing that could go wrong is that, obviously the ice will crack, you'll fall in, and maybe to make matters even worse, we've already established that this rope is not great. Like it has flaws. Maybe the rope just fails you at that moment as well. And so now we need a frozen rescue out of a rescue out of the frozen water. So I think it could go back. I think it could go south really, really quickly if you fail. I'll just say that the stakes are pretty high here. Anybody else have any thoughts on what could go wrong, Adrian or Blaine?
Again, the zombies could free themselves, and we would have to hold on to the rope while we're trying to fend off the zombies.
Maybe there are more zombies under the lake too.
That could be. Could also be that before she disappeared, Akünh left some sort of trap.
I like that as well. Yeah, that's great. Those are all good ideas. So you're getting your first light die for sure. Devil's bargains. My devil's bargain is, in fact, that you have to deal with a zombie that bursts out of the ice. That's my offer. Whether that's a combat roll or something else, but I think that's what it is.
No matter what, taking the lilies from the lake is going to disturb something in the lake.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything better than those two.
Both are not great, but if you want that light die, Merwin, choose between them or decline them as well.
The Devil's Bargain gives you a light die?
Yeah, you have one light die from your skill and then another light die if you choose the Devil's Bargain.
Okay, and then you start with a base of 1 die anyway, so.
Not on the risk roll. On the risk roll, you just get 1 for skills or equipment or the environment, and then 1 for a Devil's Bargain.
Okay.
Nima is also very willing to help out here.
Yeah, I think there's lots of good natural reasons for a help roll if you need it too. And I think you're also going to have a dark die because you're risking your body to do this.
Okay. So it'd be a risk 2-1 because I will take the, so to speak, the devil I know rather than the devil I don't, and let one of the red-eyed zombies get free.
I love it. I think it's great. So yeah,
2-1, and this is a risk roll, right?
it is indeed. Yeah, risk 2-1.
Okay.
So for light, that's a success with a complication. You will be able to gather all the lilies. I'll tell you that the complication is going to be that the zombie that bursts out of the ice, the zombie that bursts out of the ice gets to jump on you, and you are going to have to combat it. If you would like to take a help roll from someone or add a dark die, do that as well.
Well, we haven't gone through combat yet, so let's make it happen.
All right.
Let's do it. Give me the initial part of the fiction, like going out into the lake, collecting the lilies. What does all that look like?
Okay. So my first few steps are a little more confident because I can clearly see where the thinner parts of the ice are on the edge of the shore. So I will easily avoid those and stick with the deeper water, or the deeper water that has iced over. And once I get to a place where the ice has gotten clearer so I can see that I can't see the bottom, or I can't see frost, I start getting more and more cautious to where I'm pretty much on my belly moving forward. And every nudge forward, it doesn't matter how softly or how gently or how slowly I move, there's still the occasional crack and pop beneath me as ice changes and shifts imperceptibly beneath me. And so I'm sort of swimming across the surface of the lake as I'm moving toward the lilies. I use my tools to gently chip away at the ice around the lilies to remove them without damaging them, and collect them in my pouch one by one as I swim to the next. And eventually, one of the cracks just reaches a bit too far through the ice and ends up freeing one of these zombies.
Indeed, and it bursts out of the ice. You described yourself kind of hunkered down or on your belly. It bursts out of the ice and is just like just on top of you. I need to know, first of all, it's maybe kind of obvious, but you have to say how you're exposed to danger. How are you vulnerable right now?
Well, I probably have a water lily in one hand and my pick in the other, and I'm face down on the ice, occupied.
Indeed. So go ahead and roll /weak to get your weak point.
Okay, /weak.
6. Not a great weak point. And now you're going to do combat. So it's just you, because you're kind of far out enough on the ice to where right now, at least, only you can do the combat. If your companions want to run across the ice and help you, they can do that. But for now, it's you. You get 1 dark die for combat. The way combat works is we add the 2 highest dark dice, and if it equals the endurance of the monster, then you defeat it. But you only get 1 to start for the first round, and the monster's endurance is 7, so you literally can't beat it the first round. The most you can hope to do is not get hit, basically. Go to a second round, you get another dark die. So let's do the first round, do a combat 1.
Okay, so / combat 1.
Okay, so you got a 1. That's obviously not enough to defeat it, but it did not hit your weak points, so you don't take any damage. You do go ahead and get to describe the initial tussle, though. What happens when it
Okay.
first bursts out?
Well, I'm face down, and I can hear the ice cracking to my right, and I can hear one of these creatures moans as it frees itself from the mud. And out of the corner of my eye, I see it lunging at me, and I desperately roll over, lifting up my pick to try and catch it and knock it away from me, but it lands on the flat, curved portion of the pick rather than either point. And so it is relatively unharmed and literally on top of me.
For Triss and Vanek, or I'm sorry, Triss and Nima, if you have ranged weapons, you can join the combat. Otherwise, you have to rush out to the ice. So do either of you have a ranged weapon?
Nima does not. I think what she might try to do instead of rushing out onto the ice is I don't see if maybe because we're holding on to that rope, if maybe we could pull Vanek away so that the zombie has to follow and get within range of our melee weapons.
I like that. That's very good. Yeah. I think I'm going to make. I like that plan. I am going to make Vanek go one more round before it's close enough. But so go ahead and do a combat 2, Vanek, because you have 2 dice now because it's the second round.
Wow,
Okay,
I just get stronger and stronger every round.
You get more dark dice every round, which means you have an increased chance of getting hit. But you also have a chance of actually defeating it. So you got exactly what you need. You did defeat it. That's a 6 and a 1, which is 7. However, you also get hit, so your ruin goes up by 1. Describe. If you want to describe a monster hitting you, you can do that, but definitely describe how you kill it. What does it look like?
My ruin is up to 4. So my companions are starting to pull on that rope, but they don't have enough momentum to get me out yet. But as they're pulling and this monster is like scrabbling at me, I roll over and pin it under the under the top part of my pickaxe, and then roll again to impale it on one of the points as I start being pulled, and literally just sort of yank its head off as we're moving backwards.
And I think the way it hit you, I don't even know if it hits you. I think it's more just like maybe you're getting sloshed by the cold water, and like the cold water is just like freezing you to the bone, right?
Yeah.
And that's where your ruin comes from. And you're almost like it's like hypothermia almost at this point. But they do pull you back across, and yeah. I don't think the way the fiction is going, I don't think you'll be able to go back out and and plunder the body, because unless you want to risk the ice again. But you do have the lilies, so the lilies are sorted. The lilies. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Vanek's just breathing hard. It's like I think we're done here. He's shivering.
I'm going to give you the condition frozen to the core. The lilies, if you dry them out and powder them, they make a narcotic that can be sold for. There's enough of it to you basically each get 1 dose, or you can sell your dose for a gold. So you can use it for its properties, whatever that is, or you can sell it for a gold. So But for now, it's just, you can just put like ice lilies or whatever in your equipment. Let's just have that little scene at the end there. Also, the sequel is complete. So
I think Nima, I think Triss is going to, now that that zombie lies quietly on the ice, look to where Dread Akünh was standing and see whether there's anything like, is there any trace of her having been there, or did we dream that horrible figure?
do a hunt roll.
I think that's just one.
You encounter something terrible. I regret to inform you all that in the middle of all this, there's a few things you weren't noticing. You weren't noticing, for example, that the cultists high up on the ridge in the southeast are getting their wailing going again. That strange sort of ululating wail. Maybe they're a little too far away anyway for you to have thought it was anything other than just the wind. But importantly, you did not notice that there is a large number of the red-eyed zombies coming out into the clearing and surrounding you all. So you're kind of getting Vanek warmed back up. You're checking out the frozen lake situation. No evidence of Akünh, by the way. And just quite suddenly, the zombies are coming out of the woods into the clearing. I think there's probably about, I'd say like 6 of them. And their total endurance, if you wish to fight them, is 12. It's, well, 11. The total endurance is 11. And running or fighting are your options. What do you all do?
Where are they coming out in respect to like where we came from?
It's I would say that it's probably like generally in that direction, but you know, because like the lake, because basically there's just like tree line that like leads out to the lake, right, where there's no trees. And so yeah, I mean, I would say they're basically kind of behind you right at this point. I don't know if that means there's more, but it just means that these are here right now.
Do I see a way, maybe, like, I think kind of based on our earlier discussion, our next kind of point of interest is that like cyclone of mist rising up. Is there a way that we could kind of skirt along the lake and get back into the woods away from where the zombies are coming that would take us towards that?
Yeah, I think you still have the immediate pressing problem of escaping these ones, though.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, I don't know if we necessarily, in the condition that we are all in, necessarily want to stand and fight.
Yeah, you all have some armor still, so it's not the end of the world. Because armor lets you block a hit, basically.
Sure. Should we fight them? The 3 of us together, I think we might actually stand a good chance.
Yeah, I think Nima would probably, like, her immediate inclination is to run, but like if as a group folks want to stand and fight, she would be willing.
Vanek's already taken one of them down, he feels, so his confidence, even though he's freezing cold, his confidence is a little up.
He's getting cocky.
So, Triss will say, like, will say, I don't know about these demons and spirits, but Vanek, you just showed us these ones. these ones we can deal with. And pulls his rapier.
Combat. Everybody has to say how they're vulnerable right now and roll weak.
So I think Nima is vulnerable primarily, like, normally she is a very good combatant. It's one of her strong points, but with the weakness in the way she fights, having this kind of large two-handed weapon, I think that she's particularly vulnerable to, like, over swinging and throwing herself off balance.
Yeah, that's great. Roll your weak point. 4. Awesome.
I think Triss is weak because basically if they get too close to us and we have the lake behind us and with the rapier kind of I need some space, and if we get pushed back too far then we might have to step onto the ice or into the water, and I really don't want to.
Roll your weak point. 5. So we have a 4, a 5, and how are you vulnerable right now? Chilled to the bone.
Let me count the ways.
Yeah.
So Vanek is very, very stiff. He's not moving with his full flexibility since he's so cold. And he doesn't really have a good feel for his pickaxe. His hands are numb. So that's where he's at.
Nice. Roll your weak point. That's a 2. So 4, 5, and 2. And now combat 3. Since you took the lead, Triss, why don't you give us a combat 3? It's 3 dice, 1 dark die for each of you. We're looking for 11. The rolls were 4, 4, and 2. About as awful a roll as you could come up with, Triss, because you did not win. And whoever's weak point is 4 just took 2 hits, and whoever's weak point is 2 just took 1 hit. You can mark your armor to avoid these hits if you wish, but otherwise, let's kick off with... Well, Triss, you start. How does the fight begin?
So we kind of all grab our weapons and stand in a line, basically facing these zombies that come out of the woods. And I think we might have underestimated how quickly they were coming and how many there were. So I think Triss does step back a bit. I mean, still manages to keep enough distance between the zombies and himself and the lake, but gets a little too far away from the other two, I think, and it seems that they are kind of swarmed by the zombies, and Triss is the only one getting off free in this.
Indeed, indeed. Keep it going, please, Nima.
So out of character, I did mark my armor.
Okay. So
I saw that roll and I was like, yeah.
I wouldn't want to take 2 ruin either.
I was like, oh, that really sucks for whoever rolled 4. And then I remembered that it was me. So I think exactly what Nima kind of was afraid of happens, where the zombies rush in and she kind of puts herself forward at the front of this, and she just pulls back with her walking stick that has these huge spikes coming out of the head. And she just takes this massive two-handed swing at kind of the front couple of zombies that are approaching them, and immediately kind of just falls over.
And I think they bear down on you at that point, right?
Yeah. And luckily, I mean, kind of classic zombies, like trying to like scratch and bite. She's just wearing all of these massive, like heavy layers of clothing that start to get torn and ripped, but are able to kind of protect her from the first wave.
Indeed. And I'm going to swing over to Vanek. Vanek, give us the next bit of fiction. What's going on here?
Vanek lifts up his pickaxe to strike, but he can't get it up fast enough. His grip keeps slipping, and as one of them falls on him, he just manages to turn enough that it strikes his backpack with all of his bedding and stuff in it, and that rips to shreds and falls all about.
I would love to point out to viewers of the video, because I think this is really clever. Merwin or Vanek has as his armor books and bedding, so it's not actual armor; it's just the books and bedding on his back. So I like the way you've described that. That's really good. Anything else you want to add? Are you good?
No, I'm good.
All right, so we're going to go to the second round. If anyone is feeling uncomfortable continuing this combat, they can run away like a coward and give their weak point to another player of their choice, but avoid the combat. Show of hands, who's staying in the combat? Merwin, is that a hand? Hand, good. So you go next, Nima. You get 1 extra dark die now, so it's going to be combat 4.
Alrighty. So
we are looking for 11. That is not enough. That is an 8. And whoever has the 5 and the 2 is taking a hit. Let's keep it going. Continue, Triss.
Yeah, now I think what Triss was afraid is happening. He gets pushed back towards the lake, but still manages to somehow stabilize himself before he kind of steps into the cold mud, and in this way exposes his tunic, his body, his chest to one of the zombies that get a big scratch in. Luckily, the tunic catches it for now.
Indeed. Keep it going, Nima.
So I think that Nima manages to kind of find her footing, and uses her walking stick to get back on her feet. And since we're a little, I guess actually not really any closer to defeating them as the same number as last round, manages to at least kind of fend off and push away the ones that had scrambled over her when she fell.
Fantastic. And keep it going here. Vanek.
Vanek is off balance. Not only is he numb and stiff, but now he's lost his entire sense of balance because his pack is no longer supporting him or he's no longer having to support his pack, and he stumbles forward as 2 more converge on him, and he takes a solid hit to the side. He's not doing very well.
Indeed not. We're about to go to the next round of combat. You have a couple of options here. Any one of you can run away and give your weak point to another player, or if someone wants to do a risk roll to have the whole group escape, I'm open to that as well.
I think as a starting point, Nima might look at her companions who are in much worse condition than she is, and tell them both to run.
Because you're only at Ruin 2, so you can actually take a couple of hits, right?
Yeah, and the rest of the party is not.
Yeah,
so
and you still get their dice. You'd be up to 5 combat dice at that point. But
okay.
But if they ran, you would have all the weak points. So.
Yeah, I don't love that, but I think that that's safer for us.
Yeah.
So what happens as our ruin goes up? What happens when a ruin hits 6, for example?
Your character's dead.
Oh, well, that's not good. Okay. Yeah, if Nima's offering, I'm going to try and stumble out of there.
So what was your weak point? 2?
Yes, my weak point was a 2.
Nima, your weak point is now 4 and 2. What about you? Are you going to stay?
Triss is staying.
Staying.
Yes.
Okay. So we're up to the next round. 5 combat dice, please. Go ahead and roll it, brave Triss.
Well, there we go.
That's what you needed.
All right.
No weak
wow, that is
points.
No weak
yeah.
points.
Yeah, no weak points. And just for viewers, it was a double 6. So that's enough to defeat them. Bathe yourselves in desperate glory here, Triss and Nima. Destroy these zombies. What does it look like?
I think Triss actually being so close to the water and really doesn't want to step in because he's very afraid what that cold water might do to his dancing feet. Really kind of gathers all the energy that he has and runs 2 or 3 of them through with the rapier, just like one after the other, and giving Vanek space to get out of there, and at the same time watching how Nima deals with the rest of them.
So I think with how well our roll went compared to how poorly the first 2 went.
Actually, if I can just jump in before
sure.
you describe finishing them off, I'd love to hear like how the escape goes for Vanek. Like, what does that look like?
Vanek at this point, having taken a really hard hit in the previous interaction, is literally on the ground, and he's got his pick in one hand, and just he's trying to drag his backpack because he knows he can't leave all the stuff that we've collected so far behind, and so he's trying to keep as low a profile as possible on the ground, pretending to be dead but moving still whenever he sees the other creatures being distracted by his more active companions. And so he's just sort of scuttling out of there every opportunity he gets until he's outside of their circle of threat.
Nice. All right, finish them off, Nima.
So yeah, I love that image so much, and I think as Nima takes advantage of the fact that Vanek is running, and so like as the zombies kind of follow after Vanek, who's exiting combat, she kind of takes advantage of that to just move behind them and kind of start picking them off one by one with this large club that she carries.
Nice, I love it. You have earned the right to name these creatures in a bestiary as a bestiary entry, so that's good. You also are going to get to roll 11 gold dice. Nima, why don't you do the honors? Roll 11 gold, or gold 11.
All right.
Not bad. You got 4 gold. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. When we come back, I would love to know the name of these creatures. I would also like to know which like the body parts that you're harvesting, and because they're each worth 1 gold. So I'd like to know what those are that you're taking from them and adding to your pack. Let's take 5 for now.
Alrighty.
So combat's over. Per your stars and wishes last week, you got your combat. I hope you enjoyed it. And I want to point out that sort of in the gameplay loop of Trophy Gold, now that one of you at least is very close to being dead, this is where hunt roll tokens are extremely valuable, and the ones that you've saved up to this point, because they allow you to skip past dangerous parts of the incursion. But with all that said, let's go back to these zombie-like creatures. What are we calling them? Or did we already name? Or we already named them Scrabblers, didn't we?
If these are the same ones we encountered,
it's the same
cave,
one. Yeah, I do like frozen Scrabblers though, if that's okay. Maybe somebody offered frozen something in the chat. I think that'd be fun. Yeah, these are the same creatures. More importantly, what'd you get off their bodies?
The red glowing eye.
Okay, whoever's taking red eyes, you can add that to your gear and it's worth 1 gold. Unless you want to take something different, in which case tell me what it is.
I think that maybe because Nima knows a little bit about these ice lilies, maybe like she knows that like if you add like the kidney of something to the concoction when you powder it, it makes it like an even more potent narcotic. And so she harvests one of their kidneys so that when eventually these lilies are dried and powdered, she has a more potent thing to either use or sell.
That's worth one gold. You can put that in your equipment. Vanek, if you want a red eye or a kidney, you can take it for 1 gold, or you can create something else, or mix, or tell us something else.
Is this does it have to be a body part, or is it something that
No, it could be something on their person too.
I'm thinking it might be good to have in the aftermath of the battle, perhaps one of the zombies' feet actually froze partway in the ground, and there's an ankle bracelet
Nice.
stuck to it.
You can take an ankle bracelet. It's worth 1 gold. And you all have 1 gold left to spend if somebody wants to take an extra of something or whatever.
I've got a pretty good amount of stuff compared to my burdens, so I'm fine letting someone else grab something.
Vanek, go ahead. You were hit by these creatures hard enough.
Okay. Well, I won't turn it down, but somebody's gonna have to carry it all once I die. So I guess I've got the other ankle bracelet for 2.
Very good. I love it. And also, I want to just point out anybody whose ruin went up. I don't know. I can't remember who exactly it was, but anybody whose ruin went up because of the fight also gets the rot condition. If your ruin didn't go up, then you don't have to, or if you already have the rot condition, you don't have to worry about it. But
somehow, no matter how much Nima has put herself between danger and her companions, still only at 2 ruin.
It's you know what, that's the way it's got to go sometimes. So yeah, after all of this, I mean, what's next? I mean, are you going to go to the cone of fog? Are you going to go back to the cave? Those are kind of the 2 last big ticket items here.
I think very briefly before we move on, Nima is going to pull out her sewing kit and help Vanek repair his backpack.
Okay, sure. I like this as a bit of fiction. If you erase the sewing kit, I will let Vanek unmark his armor.
That works for me. That gives Vanek a little bit of one more erasure of ruin.
Yes, indeed.
So you take it.
You can unmark your armor, Vanek.
Okay.
Then what?
What time is it now, more or less?
It's probably getting to be, by the time you kind of like deal with these bodies and literally cutting parts out of them and repairing the backpack, catching your breath, I think it's probably getting to be like, it's got to be at least like, it's the afternoon at this point, probably like 2 or 3 o'clock, roughly, like late afternoon.
Yeah.
Maybe it would be best to go explore the cave some more and be somewhere that we feel is relatively safe to bed down for the night.
I think so. That sounds good.
The safest location I think we have to sleep is probably the chapel. It's a known quantity, as opposed to the cave, which we don't really know what's beyond where those scrabblers came from. But I'm willing to press on if that's what we choose.
If we explore the cave, perhaps we can gain a better understanding of what lies beyond the scrabblers that we took care of last night.
Agreed.
I think so. Let's do that.
You can go back to the cave, and by the time you reach the cave, it's pretty late in the afternoon at this point. Sun is it's still light out, but it's not, not as bright. You can see the remnants of your own encampment there in the cave. One thing that will become apparent to you as you're kind of making your way through the cave, assuming you're kind of going in deep a little bit, is that the cave is ascending gradually. It's going up. Who's in the lead?
I think maybe at this point, I think Nima would kind of put herself in the lead. Since, despite being drained, she's in a little bit better shape.
Yeah.
I also think I feel like maybe I have 3 hunt tokens, so I think that maybe it's worth spending those to clear out this cave so we have a place to rest. I don't know how the rest of the group feels.
The set goal was the rather cryptic find a way to open the rotting mouth.
Yeah, I guess theoretically that could make the cave less safe.
If you wish to spend 300 tokens to automatically achieve this goal, you may do so.
Or it could be that the rotting mouth is what keeps things in, and opening it is a way out. If this is an ascending tunnel.
The cave is going up, it seems to be taking you out of the crater.
Yeah, that could work. And I think kind of thinking through on a meta level, I would rather spend my hunt tokens here and let Vanek keep his, since it's probably a little bit more relevant to have Vanek be able to kind of pick an opportune moment to use hunt tokens to get out of something.
I'm not sure that's how it works, but I think it's hilarious if Vanek dies with 3 hunt tokens.
It's true too.
You can also leave, right? If this is taking you out, you can be done. Screw the demon. Forget the monks. You don't get your payout, but you've had a pretty good run of it here.
Yeah.
There's nothing keeping you here except just fulfilling your agreement with the monks.
Yeah, and
it is true. We do all have enough to pay off our burdens.
Yeah, and in a very odd meta sense, you have 3 hunt tokens, I have 3 hunt tokens, and there are 2 obstacles left. One is the maw and one is the fog. So theoretically, we could wipe them both out. I don't know if there's something else going on, but that's also a possibility.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do it. I'll spend my 3 to clear the set goal of the cave.
Indeed. You continue up this cave. It does go for a while, actually, for about an hour, in fact, in total, as you're kind of gradually ascending. And eventually the smell of rot becomes much more powerful. Imagine, for example, if someone with really, really bad breath, if you were in their mouth, it's like that, right? Except worse. And eventually the ground beneath your feet stops being hard packed earth and becomes spongy, even a little buoyant. And if you look down, you can see that you're walking on what appears to be a great, thick, wet, red tongue. And this tongue leads to what appears to be a set of filthy, rotten teeth. Each of the teeth is about 3 or 4 feet high, and it's like you're inside something's mouth. You have to cover your faces to prevent just gagging and retching. And the way you open the mouth up is to spill blood on the tongue. You spent the tokens, Nima, so how did you discover this?
I think maybe, so Nima, with her skills being destruction and strength, when she first encounters these giant teeth, her first inclination is to just try and like rip the mouth open. And as she's doing so, she like slices her hand on one of the teeth as she's grappling it, and like the canines that come down with a little bit of a point, and some of her blood drips down onto the tongue.
And once you realize that it's blood that opens the mouth, or that this mouth responds to, how do you, maybe it needs more. What do you do to give it more? What does that look like? You're already a little drained, but
Yeah. Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry. I think someone was.
We do have kidneys and so on. Not so much blood in an eye, I guess.
Yeah,
but there's a whole there's a lot of corpses hanging in the trees out there.
Yeah.
There's even a few corpses in the cave from where we killed them before.
That's true.
Yeah, so that might be if that would work. I think maybe we all kind of walk back. And
their blood might be a little too coagulated, or because it doesn't do anything anymore. Like it's just black.
What about the priest
sludge.
that we the remains of the priest that we fed to Sarku?
I mean, to be clear, I think it could be enough just to like cut your hand open or something, or do something like that, right? I don't think it needs like a whole big production. You're getting it automatically, so.
Yeah, I think she would, like, when none of these other things work, I think Nemo would, there's, these kind of great spikes coming out of the head of the walking stick she carries, and I think she just drags one of those across her hand, and holds it out and lets the blood drip down onto the tongue.
Nice. And there's a shutter beneath your feet, and the mouth opens. As it opens, you can see tendrils of bile stretching between the teeth. The smell is so repulsive and overpowering, but it's immediately cut by the smell of fir trees, of balsam trees, because the mouth lets out into the woods above the crater. And there's someone just outside of the mouth. A person, youngish, wearing furs and bones, like bone decorations, like rattling bone shirts, and tattoos all over. And he immediately starts like flailing around when the mouth is opening. He's like, and he kind of scrambles back to like see what's coming out of it. And he's like, it's open. It's open. The mouth is open. brothers and sisters, the mouth is open. And he's getting up and he's ready to run off to go to his brothers and sisters to tell them the mouth is open. Assuming you don't want his brothers and sisters to show up, Triss, what do you do? Or maybe you do, I don't know. But Triss, what do you do? This is almost certainly the people who were doing the wailing. It's them.
Yes, that's what I thought. I wonder if I can try to catch that guy's bone shirt and whatever, throwing the grappling hook that I have.
I like that very much. I like it. I don't know if I don't need it as a risk roll. I just like it as a bit of fiction, to be honest. Just describe what it looks like.
Yeah, so I think we are all concentrating on the mouth opening. This is in all this grim, dark kind of horror that we have experienced over the course of this day. This is a kind of almost like a comic relief, because as soon as it opens, like, Nima is still concentrated on this, and I see that person standing there, and they are kind of with this excitement, almost giddy, and Triss just basically takes this rope off his shoulders and in one movement just throws it in their direction, and the grappling hook just catches on their bone shirt, and Triss just stoically kind of pulls him through the mouth, and that person's now lying in front of us.
Indeed. And he says, I mean you no harm. Who are you? Where did you come from? Are you from the realm of death?
Yes.
Yes, I see it.
We heard your chanting, and we have responded.
Yes. Go. Splendid.
What do you want with us?
We have been traveling for days. We sensed a disturbance, some sort of energy, and so we came to this place, and we saw the mouth, and we know that the mouth, well, our high priest believes that the mouth leads to the realm of death, but I don't have to tell you that, I suppose. And yes, and I was there when it happened. I was the one who witnessed this momentous moment. And I think that means I'm probably going to move up in the ranks a bit if I had to.
You have disturbed Dread Akünh. Go back and tell your high priest that she is not to be disturbed. And all of these rituals have to cease immediately. All of you will feel the cold of the death realm.
Who has the rock condition right now, besides Vanek? Is it just Vanek?
I think it might be. I know Nima does not.
Okay.
I think it's just Vanek. I'm special.
Good. For some reason, I don't have that thing pulled up anymore. Oh, here it is. I think he looks at Vanek and, like, maybe he sees something you haven't noticed yet, Vanek. He's looking, like, at your neck and your cheek, and he's like, yes, you really are from the death realm. I can see that now. Oh, fear not, revenants. I will go and I will tell my high priest what I've seen, and he will decide what we must do. Please don't curse me, or do curse me. I don't know. Just stay here, perhaps. And he is untangling himself from the grappling hook. And he says,
the last thing that Triss says is, if you come back to this mouth, you will not see the sunrise tomorrow.
Says, yes, I do believe this. How interesting that in the realm of death you have ropes and grappling hooks. I wouldn't think such things would be very useful, and he chucks them off and runs at that point. What do you do now?
Vanek's kind of wheezing, but he looks at Triss. Impressive.
Yes, if they dare enter the mouth, I think that when they stumble upon us down below, that they will not be threats.
That's what I hope. They hopefully will not bother us any longer with their high priest and whatever they were doing. Fools.
My worry is I don't know if this mouth will stay open and the ranks of their priests will increase as a result of if they should come down. Do we need to worry about the fog, or are we heading home?
I think Nima kind of looks at everyone and sees how kind of worn the group is, and she says, I believe that I still need to press forward and stop Dread Akünh. But if you need to leave, I understand.
We'll see this through.
We'll see it through.
I think I'd just like to fast forward then at that point and suggest that you make your way to the fog, I assume is where you're going, right?
Are we spending the night in the cave, or are we? Yeah.
I guess really that
feels a lot more dangerous now with cultists at your back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I that feels more of a Triss decision, as the one that is terrified of the cosmos, which is about to come out in all of its glory.
Yeah, from Vanek's perspective, if he stops moving, he's not going to get up. It's so cold.
We've looked into the forest above. So, what time has the sun already gone down?
I think it's probably dusk at this point. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Let's see what that fog holds for us, and hopefully the stars won't shine through. I feel like 1,000 eyes are looking upon me, just waiting.
Well, the fog may block them, if at the very least. So if we hurry, the cave or the fog will make you feel safer.
The fog is basically on the other side of the crater. It's on the opposite side, which means by the time you reach it, the dusk light has gotten quite low at this point. It's just barely a sliver of orange in the sky. The moon is rising. The fog is interesting because as you get closer, it leads to this pit, a quite vast pit, a pit within a pit, if you will. This pit, though, is not quite. It's about the size of like. It's about the size of like a football field, say, somewhere in that kind of length, right, width, roughly. And Down in the pit, so above the pit is the sort of nucleus of the fog cone, and it's just like swirling above you. And it's unclear like what's causing that fog to be there. It's just kind of hanging in the sky above the pit. And down in the pit, you see quite literally thousands of the cold scrabblers, or frozen scrabblers as we're calling them. These undead creatures crawling on top of one another, flailing around, falling around, moaning loudly. They can't escape the pit, but they're down there. And the medallion that you took off of the priest, whoever's holding that, you can feel it getting warm. What do you all do?
I imagine that Nima was holding the medallion, or carrying it probably somewhere on her person. And I think as it gets warm, she kind of takes it out and kind of holds it up and looks at it.
If you hold it up, you detect, all three of you detect a shift in the environment. And now when you look down in the pit, you see something entirely different. You don't see thousands of frozen scrabblers. Instead, what you see is the Ziggurat and a necropolis. And the Ziggurat and the necropolis are surrounded by a great walled enclosure. And quite suddenly you realize they're not in a pit anymore. It's at ground level. And you can see that the cone of fog is coming from the top of the Ziggurat. And there are indeed a group of people, they're very tiny in your vision, but they're a group of people at the top who are doing a ritual causing this fog, this cone fog to take place. I'll also tell you that the sky has changed. It's unclear whether it's day or night. You can see perfectly fine, but the light has an ill color to it, like a just a sickly yellow color, basically. There's only one entrance into this complex, one entrance in this great high wall, and that entrance leads to the necropolis. The necropolis is surrounded by a body of water. And beyond the necropolis is a path to the Ziggurat. The necropolis, which is just a collection of mausoleums, the necropolis area has a titanic creature, well, not titanic, but a very big creature, comprised of bones, a chaotic mass of horns and bones with a circular mouth that's just teeth where a face should be. It's hulking and large, probably about 9 or 10 feet tall, and it's just skulking around the metropolis, patrolling the metropolis. And there appears to be another of the rock priests down there on the ground praying in the necropolis. And this great hulking mass of bones just stalking around. You have a set goal here. Set goal is enter the Ziggurat. What do you do?
Well, I got 3 hunt tokens. I don't think it's going to solve our problem, but it'll get us into a really deep hole, so to speak.
Yeah, but we could try to keep them for what's actually in the Ziggurat. Right. I mean, but it's your choice, of course.
Yeah. So getting to the Ziggurat means getting past the bone monster that's patrolling the necropolis.
It would get you past the bone monster, past the mausoleum, or past the necropolis, across the path, across the lake to the ziggurat and inside.
Yeah, I mean, that might be safer for us than trying to get into combat with a priest and a bone monster. We could also just try to... Is there enough room in the ziggurat for us to, like, potentially, like, sneak around these two things?
You could try to just sneak through the necropolis. By all means, you could do that. You could also swim in the water around it if you wish. I don't recommend that option. And but yeah, you could definitely do that.
That's a question. Can we? I mean, can we spend the 3 tokens at any point? Like even
like if it's going poorly, yeah. Yeah, if it's going poorly. I mean, any rolls stand. Like you have to take the consequence of the roll, but you know.
Okay.
But it's a risk reward question. You have a limited number of tokens. You know something's coming in the ziggurat, so yeah.
I think if you guys are okay, I think I want to take a closer look at what's going on there and see if we can find out a little bit more about if there's a way through the necropolis. So basically hunt for a way through the necropolis.
How do you do it? You'll get a hunt roll, but just describe how you do it.
Yeah, let's see. So how far are we from that entrance?
The entrance to the ziggurat?
No, to the necropolis.
Oh, you can be there easily if you wish. Yeah.
Because I think I want to know what's going on exactly in there. So I think Triss will take out a small mirror and try to look, like use the mirror to look around the corner to see what this big monster is doing.
I like it. Do a hunt too. 6 light, good result. Take your token. The massive horn bone creature construct, which is stomping around. You can see that it has like a wispy tether, like a tether of energy to it, which is emanating from the priest who is on the ground praying and doing something. So.
I think they're doing something in there. We might be able to sneak by.
I think that is definitely preferred to trying to confront these creatures.
So what do you do?
What about I think I mean Triss is skilled in distraction, so but also evasion in this and it makes no difference. But maybe trying just a classic trick of throwing some stones into the water and hoping that they react to it and we can sneak on wherever they're not looking.
That is definitely a risk roll. I like the way you've described it. What could go wrong, gang? I'll just say it. You have to engage this thing in combat. So don't know if it's going to be different than that. I'm open to suggestions, though, Marwan and Blaine.
I think based on what you said earlier and how Triss is going about this, we could find out what's swimming in the water. It could be disturbed by whatever is getting thrown in there.
Another good point.
Are we talking devil's bargains at this point, or?
No, just what happens if it fails.
Okay. No, those are two really good options. I don't have anything else.
Let's talk about your dice then, Triss. What skill, or it could be skill, equipment, or the environment?
Distraction.
Okay, I like it. You have a light die. Devil's bargains. My devil's bargain is that no matter what, something comes up out of the water. If you succeed, not a big deal. If you don't succeed, a very big deal.
Yeah, I don't really like that. Are there any others?
One thought being that now that the sky is this awful kind of sickly color, maybe Triss sees something that makes him truly understand that he should be fearful of the cosmos.
It's fun too.
Yeah, I mean, seeing something like that could possibly have my ruin go up, but I think I would take that devil's bargain. I don't know if that mechanically works.
Your ruin can only ever go up if a dark die is included, but I like it as a bit of fiction for sure. Merwin, do you have an offer?
As far as a devil's bargain goes, no, I'm good. I'm good. I don't have anything.
So what I mean, I understand that basically this one is that from going, because it says fearful of the cosmos, stars in the sky are terror. So basically I would be probably going to terrorized.
Yeah, I mean, I think your conditions would definitely get worse. It might even prevent you from going any further in the adventure, right? If it's really bad, depending on how, we can kind of make some decisions about that. But I have an idea what's going to happen though if you choose this. So if you want to choose it, go for it.
Yeah, I think I'll choose that.
Okay. And I think a dark die is probably automatic here as well.
So that is 2-1, risk 2-1. All right, let's see. That is not good.
That is not good. That is a fail. Would somebody like to do a help?
I mean, I think I have an idea. Possibly to help, unless I don't know if Vanek wants to, particularly with Vanek being at 5
ruins, so probably not.
Yeah,
armor won't help with this kind of ruin. So
yeah, so I think it's probably better for Nima to be the helper here, yeah. And I think maybe like the way she puts herself at risk is that like, if the whatever little thing Triss threw isn't distracting the things enough, and maybe they're looking in his direction, she would use her skills in destruction to maybe make a larger noise to break something.
Is the way you're exposed just the fact that you're kind of drawing attention to yourself in case you need to?
Yeah, like if this continues to go south, then she's drawing them right to her.
Roll weak. Whatever you roll will be included in the die roll. But if it equals one of these, if it equals 1, basically you take a ruin. So. And it does. Your ruin goes up. Let me tell you about this ruin increase for you, Nima. I think you see it first before anyone else does. You see, towering above the wall, towering above, like seemingly above this whole parallel world, wherever you're at, there is a massive titanic, like, vulture creature. It is enormous. Like, it would be like the size of like the Empire State Building. It's just huge, and you see it through the wispy yellow fog, and it's just looming over everything, the god of this realm. Your ruin goes up, and your die rolls no better at this point. It's still a fail, so you're going to add a dark die and roll 4,
Yes.
Tris.
I will roll. Let's see if the vulture creature carries Tris off to wherever it goes.
That's a better result. You get a 6, a success. So full success. In the middle of this, you will also see the towering vulture creature. Just describe how you get past the necropolis to the ziggurat.
All of us, right?
Everybody.
So basically, Tris just picks up this little stone and throws it right into the water behind a wall where these two, where the big bony creature and the priest are, and they actually see like more of my movement, rather like somehow in the corner of their eyes, basically something, than actually the sound. When that happens, I think Nima steps up, and I don't know. I see you basically maybe just with all your strength lifting like a big boulder, and kind of just throwing it behind the small stone that I threw, and now it makes really a big splash. And they turn around, and basically we just start running like along the side of the wall, kind of ducking again, and they are over there on the other side, kind of looking at whatever big stone Nemo was able to throw there, and we're just running along the wall, getting out of the necropolis and over towards the ziggurat.
Beyond the necropolis is a little footpath that is built over the water, and so you can run across that, no problem. You get to the ziggurat. The ziggurat is really something. It is a colossal ice-covered structure. It's slightly elevated off the ground, like it's floating slightly, but it does have stairs that go up into it. And the top of the ziggurat, which is decorated with like all kinds of strange carvings of eyes and large horns coming out of it, things like that. The top of it is like, it appears to be cracked open and crumbled. And up there, you see the ritual taking place, these rot priests chanting, is like sending up their energy, their words into the sky in this great swirling yellow cyclone. You rush up the steps to get inside the ziggurat. A question for everybody at the table. No, just the person who has rot, which I think is Vanek. Vanek, since you have rot, I want to know, how does the ziggurat suddenly feel like home to you?
Oh my gosh. I'm not itching anymore. There's like this soothing, warm, I don't feel cold at the core. I'm not scratching anymore. This just feels like I'm about to walk into a nice, warm, relaxing sauna. My muscles are all just loose. I just feel so much freer stepping into the ziggurat.
Nice. The Ziggurat final set goal, incidentally. Locate and destroy the heart of Dread Akünh is the set goal. The entrance to the Ziggurat is just a single massive chamber. And you see, standing in the center of the chamber, you see Akünh. And she says, I'm impressed you made it this far. But I fear you are too late. My worshippers have very nearly completed their work. And a festering sore will spread across the earth and consume it in waves of pus and necrotic flesh. Come, join me now. Watch as your world is consumed by this realm. You can say that you were there at the end of everything. And she extends her hands to invite you to come watch with her. What do you all do?
Well, this is the best place I've been so far. I mean, I feel good here. Vanek's definitely walking forward, and he doesn't even, I don't think he even sees the maw in the middle of her chest anymore. He just sees just the hands. I mean, he feels welcome, as you said. And but I'm definitely spending those three tokens. Thank you very much.
Indeed, indeed. With the tokens spent, one of you, whoever wants it to be, will notice a little stairway off to the side going down. And Sarku mentioned that the heart is located beneath the ziggurat. What do you all do?
Someone may have to pull me down those stairs because I'm not really paying much attention.
I will also note here that you will look up, Triss, and you will see that in the center of the cyclone, of which you have a great perfect view of now, what they're calling upon, what they're giving power to, is a sickly yellow star in the sky. This sickly yellow star is what's going to consume the world. And they're using the power of Akünh to do it.
So that's the one that I saw coming out of the Death Realm when we saw this kind of moment where everything was a little less okay.
It's always the stars.
being that Nima is skilled in destruction, one option we have is like if y'all want to kind of distract Akünh, I could sneak down, or not sneak necessarily, but go down there while y'all are distracting her and try to destroy this thing.
So is Vanek just walking towards Akünh right now? Is that what was going on?
That's kind of how I'm envisioning it. I'm probably the giant distraction, and I've already spent my 3 hunt tokens, so we're going to be doing this.
Yeah, it's successful no matter what. Yeah, we're just narrating how it goes at this point.
Okay. Okay, so we're not rolling anyway anymore? Okay. I think then Triss will kind of very quickly, almost like looking up, really trying to kind of shield himself from the light of that star, that sickly light, but almost kind of quick-footed dancing towards Vanek and try to pull him down and kind of into like a roll so that both of us are on the ground and he doesn't go any closer. And that probably will also draw all of Akün's attention to us. So Nima can do whatever Nima's destruction skills allow her to do here.
Nima, if you go down the stairs go to just a rather small chamber, actually, like barely the size of like a walk-in closet. And inside this little small chamber on a pedestal is a large, oily black gem just floating there. This is the heart of Akünh. What do you do?
So Nima looks at it, and I think there's a moment of pause where she kind of thinks back to her conversation with Sarku, because Nima doesn't really think of herself as a murderer. I think like the things that we've killed so far have all been undead, and even like the priest. She didn't directly kill the priest. She just gave the priest to Sarku, who then killed the priest. So I think for a moment she kind of grapples with this, like, does she become the thing that Sarku predicted she would become? But it's remembering that her friends who are very hurt up there with Dread Akünh, and just the fact that there are so many people in this world that would suffer if this thing is not destroyed. I think she takes her stick and kind of aims those large, heavy metal spikes coming out of the top directly at the heart, and kind of just smashes the stick into it, kind of finally embracing that maybe Sarku was correct. Maybe she is a murderer.
Indeed. And upon smashing the heart, Akün's central mouth opens up and lets out a terrible death rattle, a wail, a horrible wail, and she just begins collapsing in on herself, crumpling up, and eventually just turns to ash and dies. The priests, in their agony, in their their agony, like just their distress of Akünh being dead, of seeing their god be killed, they just begin throwing themselves down into the ziggurat from up top, smashing against the ground, and their bodies breaking and smashing apart. And you can feel this world slipping away from you, this realm. If you get shot back into the real world, you're going to be in a pit full of undead creatures. And so I assume you all make haste and get out of there. Is that fair to say? And you do, and you can. And you can make your way back up the cave, up the rotting mouth, out into the woods.
Do we see Sarku anywhere?
No.
On the way out? No.
No. And so concludes the incursion.
Hooray!
I want to take a break, and a longer break, say 10 minutes, and on that, you have some homework. On that break, I want you to scroll down to the bottom half of the character sheet, just past the big, thick black line. That is Hearthfire. And there are things you can spend your money on, essentially. You can put money into your hoard, which helps you get closer to your drive. And whenever you do, you mark some of these boxes. You can establish a household. You can carouse. You can open up equipment slots. You can learn new rituals. You can learn new skills. You can heal. And they're all options. But in any case, on the break, I would like for you just to read through that stuff, or at least read through the instructions, so that we can do a Hearthfire. Okay. So we'll take 10.
Alrighty.
Hearthfire. Hearthfire is the way that your characters advance. It's the way that your characters, it's like a reward for finishing the dungeon, because it gives you a chance to show us more about your character and what they're all about and how they live their lives when they're having downtime. You can do a number of different things. Principally, you will be just healing and recovering, but you also have the opportunity to build a household, or to establish a household, to put money away in your hoard in order to get closer to satisfying your drive, and some other things you can do as well, learning rituals and skills and things like that. So the way we start, we're back in, I don't know what we'll just say it's Fort Durin. Just not like Fort Durin is a generic place to be. Back in Fort Durin. And to start, you are going to get 2 gold of payment from the monks that you did this job for. And so you have 2 gold to play with, but you need to go ahead at 2 each. You each get 2, and you need to clear enough gold and treasure to equal your burdens. So do that now.
So at least one of the items I'm holding has to be split, and one of them has been partially split. So the ice lilies, make sure you mark 1 gold from the ice lilies, because they split into 3, if you haven't already.
Yeah.
And the crown has not been split yet.
Crown is also a magical item, by the way. If you want to keep it, you don't have to sell it.
Okay.
If you keep it, though, whoever keeps it increases your burden by 1. So. But once everyone has paid their burdens off, just give me a thumbs up so we know we're good to go there. All right. And Merwin, I assume you did. Urbanic. So I guess at this point, with whatever money you have left, anything that you found you can keep. You don't have to turn it into gold. You can keep it because you want to just keep it as equipment. If you keep any weapons or armor, it increases your burdens. If you keep anything magical, it increases your burdens. The only thing that you all have that's magical, the lilies have magical properties, but they're one-time use, so I'm not going to make you increase your burdens there. But the crown is a magical item, even though you don't know quite what it does yet. But if you decide to keep that, whoever keeps it, their burdens go up by 1. So, or you can sell it and just split the gold up.
How do we figure out what does it cost gold to figure out what it does, or how does that work?
It's kind of a trial and error thing. Like, put the crown on and see what happens. Okay. You can also carousing gets you important information, so maybe you can angle for it during a carouse, I suppose. But yeah.
You could. I mean, I'm fine with you keeping it, Vanek, if you want to. It's fun to have some items around.
I'm mostly curious. I don't know if I need to keep it, but I definitely am curious, both as a player and as a character, right? So.
Go ahead and keep it.
Yeah, I like that idea, especially if we revisit these characters at some point. We could always choose to sell it later when we don't have enough to overcome our burdens. If it
enough.
turns out to not be great.
If you keep it, just keep it in your found equipment, but you do have to increase your burdens by 1.
And burdens don't go down. They
No,
just
they only ever go up.
they're sort of the maintenance cost of being alive.
Mhm.
Okay.
And yeah, so with all that said, with whatever extra money you have left, what do you all want to do? I think we'll just go around, just do it kind of round robin style. Why don't we start with Triss? Triss, is there anything from the Hearthfire you'd like to do?
I think I'm gonna stash at least 1 piece of gold in my hoard.
Okay. So whenever you do that, you have, the first time you do it, you have to complete both of the following. 1, where do you keep your hoard so no one can find it?
So basically, Triss is living at, we will see that in a bit, in the back room of the Dread Inn. It's like a small rundown inn. And he sometimes plays music there. They have something like a piano or something, maybe even something that he brought in there. And whenever everybody,
A
whenever
harpsichord, maybe?
yeah, something like that, yeah, like a harpsichord. And whenever everyone else has gone home, he's stashing his gold in there because it's in the middle of the common room of the inn, and nobody's going to look there.
I love it. And now narrate a flashback to the moment your drive became important to you.
So his drive is, as we know, establish an inn at the Valanti crossroads. And what we see is basically, in stark contrast to all the horror that we have seen, him in an inn full of people dancing. He has like a woman on his left side and a young man on his right side, and dancing with both of them. Wine, beers flowing, and this is an inn we see a crossroads where there's like 2 inns that are built there, and there's obvious space for at least 1 more. And he's spending like days and days there, and we end seeing him kind of wake up in the room. Both of these, the man and the woman, in bed with him. Kind of the sun rises.
Nice, I love it. You have a mostly wholesome, I think, dream to satisfy, and you are 1/100th of the way there. Congratulations. let's go to Nima. What would you like to do from Hearthfire first?
So I think the first thing, I'm still debating, I think Nima might hold on to the tooth necklace she got from Sarku. But I do want the 2 gold that I have to play with. I think both of those are going to go into the hoard.
All right, sounds good. And I'll also point out that everyone gets to unmark your armor too. You get to unmark your armor for free during this phase.
Excellent.
Yeah, so where do you stash your gold?
So I have a thought about this, and you know, I can change this if it doesn't work. But what I'm thinking, my drive is to pay off my father's debt. So I think maybe I don't actually keep my gold anywhere. It goes directly to Bright Tooth Assyrio.
Oh, okay.
But the interest he is charging is so predatory
that like it just keeps, it's hard to catch
it's
up.
like the 2 gold that I'm giving him is probably enough to actually pay off the original debt. But the amount of interest that he's charged before and he's continuing to charge, it's never going to go away.
I love it. Narrate a flashback to the moment your drive became important.
So I think that, you know, after our farm kind of failed initially, Nima entered the monastery and started her training. And there was a moment a few years into her training, or a time a few years into her training, when Nima was allowed to like kind of take a break from training and return home. I think maybe her mother died, and she got a special leave to go home for the funeral. And when she got home, she found her father kind of living in the small farmhouse, and the fields were barren as they had been for years. And he was kind of just living in absolute squalor. And when she found him, he had bruises, and maybe a broken arm. And that's how she found out that he had gotten himself so far into debt that she decided to take on this burden herself.
Nice, thank you. You are 2/100ths away from satisfying your father's debts. Congratulations. What would you like to do for Hearthfire to start out here, Vanek?
I think my first order of business is seeing if I can feel better, because I don't feel good at all.
No, you're a 5 ruin. Does it?
I can't seem to get cold. I have this horrible disease that I now can see once I've gotten my clothes off for real, out of the cold. So what do I have to do to get rid of those conditions?
Establish a household.
Okay.
If you scroll down, it says, after you survive your first incursion, which you did, you may take out a loan for a small private house, or it can be any other kind of thing that you want. It isn't much, but safely returning to the comforts of home heals 1 ruin and all conditions. You don't have to, if you want to keep a condition, you can keep it, but you have the right to clear them all. The first time you establish a household, increase your burdens by 1, then answer, what kind of structure or environment is your household? A small cottage, a decrepit church you're lovingly restoring, a series of tunnels belonging to the local thieves guild, something else. Name and describe your household.
Okay.
And this is a chance to really tell us about something about you, you know?
Okay. And while I'm at it, I'll also... So I'm definitely going to build that household for 1 gold. 1 gold? 1 gold.
1 burden.
1... Oh, it doesn't cost any gold at all.
It costs nothing. It costs a burden. Yeah.
Okay. So these burdens that you add at this point, just to make sure, these burdens are incurred after you pay for your burdens on coming back, or do you have to pay for them as well?
So you don't have to pay for them right now, but the next time you go on an incursion, when you return back, your new burdens is whatever the new number is.
Okay. And can you use your hoard to pay for your burdens?
You cannot. There is 1 hoard option that allows, it's optional, that allows you to remove an amount that you wish. It says, instead of adding gold to your hoard, you can remove any amount you wish. However, I get to narrate a scene showing why you will never satisfy your drive.
Yow, that's nasty. Okay.
Once it's in your hoard, it's stashed. That's it.
Okay. All right. So, okay. This means that my burdens will go up to 5. If I'm keeping a magic item, that takes it to 4. And if I establish a household, that takes it to 5. So in the future, I will need to make 5 gold just to make ends meet.
Correct.
Okay. Well, we'll see how that works. Nothing like a little trial and tribulation for a depressing character. So here you go. Yeah, so I will take the household option, and I'm going to have ingratiated myself with a noble.
Okay.
Who has allowed me to take over a comfortable structure that one of his servants who passed on has vacated. And this noble is also the source of me starting up my hoard. And the reason for that is that my family used to be a noble family. And the whole reason that we are out searching for this relic from the ship is that it's proof, because our name has been forgotten from the books of nobility, from the records of nobility. And part of the entire reason that our family is scattered to the ends of the earth is to search out evidence that we are truly noble, that we don't have to re-earn our rights to land and title. And that particular relic from the ship there was a clue that it was probably one of the most influential pieces of evidence that we could have to prove our birthright. And so that's why I'm so hell-bent on getting hold of it. And the noble who believes me is also willing to hold my hoard.
Nice. Go ahead and make a note under household name and description, just so you remember that. And then everyone else, we each get to name a memento from your journeys together that can be found in your household. We get to kind of decorate the house a little bit, right? Because I like games where you get to decorate things. And this could be from the one you just got back from, or it can be some other adventure you've been on that we didn't get to play. But I'm going to start by saying that in your household, you have as a memento somebody has an idea, say so. I'm actually still thinking.
So I have an idea. I think maybe something we didn't quite catch on camera when we encountered the cultist outside of the Rotten Mall is that some of the bones on the armor had fallen off. And Vanek has like a small wind chime hanging in the window of his home that's like a couple of those small bones tied together with a string.
Nice. Vanek, you can put bone wind chime in your mementos.
Mementos, bone wind chime. Got it.
And do you have an idea for something, Adrian?
Yes. So I think, we've seen that Vanek is actually very knowledgeable about history and stuff. So I think in one of the earlier adventures, or just somewhere actually on some kind of market, Triss has bought like a small book. Triss is not really, he can read, but not really that well. Like, it takes him time. So he bought this book, and it's actually quite useless history book about some corner of, like maybe some history of some noble houses or whatever. But he thought that maybe Vanek would like it, and he is the only one seen reading between our adventures, because that's where all his history knowledge comes from. So now he has that book. I'm not sure he has ever opened it or actually read much in it, but that's what Triss got him.
I'm going to give you something not from an adventure necessarily, but I think this lord is his name Rigel, I guess. Or
Rigel is the name of the person who died.
Oh.
The Lord, I still have to write that in there. So
okay. Oh, I think Rigel left a couple of nice caskets of wine behind, which you inherited when you got the house. And so that concludes that household. You get to lower your ruin by 1 and clear all your conditions if you wish.
I did that. I was also curious about, since I do have a couple of gold left, in theory, I can heal, right?
You can. We'll come back to that. I'm
Okay.
kind of going around, just giving
Okay.
everybody a chance to do
Cool.
something. We'll swing back over to Triss. So Triss, anything else you want to do with your?
Yes. So Chris has also established a household. As I said, it's basically like he spends most of his time at that inn, the Dread Dragon Inn, and he has rented, or somehow the innkeeper has given to him, because he sometimes plays music here and dances and people like that. Some sort of back room. That's where he stays normally, and we see him returning there. I mean, the terror of the star and everything that has happened is still in his. You can see it in his features. And over the next couple of days, where he basically, I mean, he tries to stay inside, especially in the evening. But sometimes when he goes out to the outhouse or whatever, you can see still like him looking up to the sky and really being quite unnerved by that. But slowly over a week or so, kind of his features return to normal. It's not terror stricken anymore, and he is back to his self drinking and gambling and so on.
I love it. Go ahead and note what type of household you have there, and we all again get to give you a memento from previous adventures. Oh, I'm going to suggest that you took Akühn's horns.
Hanging on the wall, or maybe on the harpsichord. Like,
yeah, exactly. Right.
That's why I'm stashing my stuff in there, because nobody will touch these horns. Kind
yeah,
of, you know.
They give off bad vibes, right? Good. Merwin or Blaine, if you have an idea what for some mementos, go throw them out there.
I think the fellow who Triss talked into leaving, convincing the high priest to leave us alone, to stop their chanting. There's probably some heraldry, some piece of cloth or symbol that that person left behind that I picked up and made sure that Triss was left with.
Nice. Any mementos?
So I think maybe I like the idea from the last set of mementos of sort of a gift. So I think maybe Nima gathered like something from our campsite or something like that was made of cloth, and sewed some like heavy blinds for Triss to kind of keep the stars out of his at least like bedroom or like main living space, just as a like, I know you have been scarred by these celestial bodies, and like here's something to make sure that you don't have to see them out the window.
Yeah, it's great. I like that. Okay, well, let's swing back over to Nima. Is there anything else you want to do on Hearthfire, Nima?
Yeah, I think so. There's one thing I definitely want to do. The one question I have is, looking at all of this, is there a way to clear conditions other than establishing a household?
No.
Okay, so
And,
that might be something.
Well, that's not 100% true. Like, if it just makes sense in the fiction for it to be clear, then it's cleared. But
Okay.
like unnerved is probably cleared, right? But drained is probably cleared. So your particular conditions would probably go away over time.
Okay.
Scared of the stars probably would not, right? So yeah.
All right. So the one thing I want to do is training.
Okay.
So I think, as I established in the introduction, like Nima like fancies herself a healer, but is not good at it.
Yeah.
And I think after seeing how badly damaged her companions got on this adventure, like she goes back to the monastery and really kind of like nose to the grindstone is like, all right, I am going to learn how to like mend wounds. So I want to gain the surgery skill.
Okay, nice, good. So we get to have a training montage. So training, you have a mentor training you in the skill of surgery. You have to increase your burdens by 1. And you get to select in your training section surgery. And here we just need you to name your mentor and describe an incident they are famous for. What did they do? Why are they the skilled surgeon?
So I think so. The mentor's name is going to be Mother Ileana, who's one of the heads of the monastery, and I think she is kind of famous for like a king in this area was grievously wounded during some combat, and everyone assumed that the king would die from his wounds. And Mother Ileana is the one who performed surgery and was able to save the life of the king.
Fabulous, I love it. And narrate a short montage showing how you learned the skill after days, weeks, or months of training.
So I think it's sort of a comedic montage, where at first it just shows how completely unskilled Nima is, where like Mother Ileana already kind of knew that, so she's not letting Nima touch a living person. And so it starts with maybe like vegetables, where like Nima is trying to like sew a cut in a tomato uh properly, and she's like the potato or the tomato is just absolutely mangled at the end of it. And as we move on, like she starts to get better, and you see her kind of getting more and more deft with the needle and thread. And you see her kind of performing small operations that have very little chance of death. And we see her get better and better until I don't think we ever see her like as an expert surgeon, but I think that we finally see her kind of like assisting some of the other members of the monastery with surgeries, and she's doing at least a capable job.
Nice, I love it. And why does your mentor or the skill increase your burdens? Like, are you taking care of the mentor? Are you taking care of Mother Ileana? Or does the skill require specialized equipment, something else?
I think it's more of the specialized equipment aspect of it, where like we're not a wealthy monastery, so in order to like start training and to become a surgeon, like I have to buy my own utensils to do so. The monastery doesn't really have extras for me to take. So it just requires a financial burden of providing my own equipment.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Let's go over to Vanek. You said you wanted to do some healing, right, Vanek?
Yes, please.
So you can spend 1 gold for 1 healing. Alternatively, you can choose one of the options on your list there to reduce your ruin by 1 as well.
Oh. Sure. Why don't I narrate the scene showing a private side of myself that few others see? I actually see Vanek as being married. I don't see any reason for him not to be. And the companionship would give him someone to vent to, since he's a complaining sort. by nature. And his wife, while she's not particularly doting, knows, and I don't have a name for her yet. I'll figure something out. But his wife would be the kind that would brusquely, she doesn't tolerate any weakness. It's like, you know what, get out of bed, keep moving, do this, do that, get, wear this poultice, don't. And so she will gradually nurse him back to health so his rot will not overtake him.
Fantastic. You can lower your ruin by 1. And if you want to go ahead and just spend gold to get all the way back down to 2, you can do that as well.
Yeah.
You never can go below your starting ruin, right?
Yep, that's the minimum. Okay. Tris, anything else you want to do during Hearthfire?
Yes. I would like to buy some equipment, or rather open up some equipment slots. The question is, so the starting equipment, if you lose it, it's lost, right?
It's lost, yeah. And there's the only you only have the 3 slots you can ever kind of play with, right? Those other 3 pieces of equipment are like just one-time slots, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
But the 3 slots, if you want to open those slots up, you just basically move the item down to your found equipment, and then that slot is open. So.
Okay. But so the items that you have, that you basically had and didn't lose, you still have them as found equipment?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay, yeah, so I'd like to open that, and so basically I spend 1 gold at least, and I name a shopkeeper.
You do, yeah.
So let's see. The shopkeeper's name is Randolph. And he, I mean, this, as it, like I said, at least where it's almost just a small village, kind of a little bit bigger, where Triss normally stays, and there's this one store where he basically sells everything apart maybe from a smith that sells like weapons or whatever. Everything else you can get there. So his secret, his secret, I think, is that he used to have a partner that he ran the store with, but he's been missing for a while and nobody knows where he is.
Nice. Just pick it. That sounds good to me. Go ahead and just note that down.
Yeah, and he doesn't really like to talk about that, so it's kind of unclear whether he has something to do with it or he's just missing that person or whatever.
I love it. You can open your slot too. So I assume there's a way to do that. Like, do you just like?
Yeah.
Or just select additional backpack equipment, I guess, or something. Okie doke. Nima, anything else on Hearthfire?
So I think the last thing I want to do is do a little bit of healing. So I think I'm going to do the narrate a scene showing the private side. So I'm kind of imagining, because I haven't established a household yet. Like, I think Nima still lives at the monastery, and maybe the monastery is like just outside of Fort Doran. So she's able to kind of be around her companions still. And I think she has this kind of very small cell at the monastery. And we see her like she's not a delicate person. Like she's this very large former farmer. But I think we see her like in her cell, and maybe she has a couple bones that she gathered from the adventure, and she's carving these kind of very small, intricate figurines of various saints and religious figures, and she has this kind of like little display on the small desk in the corner of her cell of these figures that she's carved, mostly from bone, but a couple of them maybe out of wood or stone, lined up along her desk.
Nice. I love it. It's great. You can lower your ruin by 1. That puts you at starting. And Vanek, anything else you want to do on Hearthfire?
I don't think so. I have 1 gold left, and my ruin is back down to 2. Thank goodness. And
yep. And since the gold is a piece of equipment, you can just keep it if you wish, or you can cash it in and put it in your hoard. So.
Yeah, actually, the gold is an ankle bracelet, so I'm not really sure what to do with that. I mean, the gold in and of itself is useful as gold. If I stick it in my hoard, I can't use it.
It's true.
So it's sort of, and if it's gold, I can use it against my burden. So my requirements for next adventure are still.
Yeah, the only time you have to spend it is if it's like just money. Like if it's just coinage, like that has to go in your hoard. So, but if it's an item, you get to keep the item.
So, can I sell my chalk for a gold?
You cannot. No. That's a no. Okay, so it sounds like you're done with Hearthfire. Thank you. Tris, anything else you want to do on Hearthfire?
Yeah, I think I might go for carousing, because that is what Tris does.
Indeed.
I think we kind of already know what his favorite tavern is.
That is true. Yeah, you've established that already. You can write that down, unless you want a new one. Like unless you want this to be the tavern in Fort Durin, right, as opposed to the one out on the road.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, let's do that. So let's do the thing. So the so I ask Blaine to give me a adjective.
Don't
secretly.
Say it out loud, Blaine. Yeah,
so
secretly.
Put it in the chat. You can just put it to me in the chat. You can select me there. I think in the chat.
So that's an adjective from Blaine and a noun from Merwin.
Mervin, yes.
Sorry about that. You need what now?
A noun. So this combines the to form the name of the tavern. So I'm getting an adjective from Blaine and a noun from Mervin.
Sorry, I need to think about this for just 1 second.
No problem. So we see Tris basically, I mean, he knows his way around taverns, so he finds the right one. And we see him talking to people, kind of, leaning in to conversations, kind of hanging around, just standing there with a beer in his hand, listening in to what people are talking about. And maybe at the beginning of the next incursion, at some point, we might learn what he learned, maybe about monsters, weaknesses, or rumors.
I'll give you a helpful rumor. Just remember that I owe you a helpful rumor. So something useful for the incursion that you do next. So, but I do want to name this bar though. So
I think the point is not knowing, right? Yeah. Okay. So so the point is, so we have an adjective that I know. So
adjective is done. So Merwin, you need a noun.
Yeah, you can announce it, because then.
So the adjective. So it won't make any sense, right? If one person doesn't go first.
That seems part of the game.
That's the point of it. Like you don't know what you're going to come up with.
Okay. Let's call it the. Let's go. We'll go simple. We'll go loom, like a weaver's loom.
Okay. So it's the petulant loom.
I really love that.
The petulant loom. I love it. Good.
Thank you.
That is your favorite Fort Durin bar. Good. I love it. And I owe you a piece of information for next time. Anything else you'd like to do, Nima?
No, I'm all set.
In that case, anything else you want to do, Tris? Or are you good to go?
I'm good.
All right. Well, that concludes Hearthfire then. And that concludes our session. Great timing. Let's do a quick stars and wishes, things we enjoyed about the whole series, both sessions, and things that we hope to see for next time if you join us for next time. So I'll start with stars. I really had a great time running this. This was really fun. The adventure is quite fun and just fleshed out enough to make to work. In terms of like all the choices you all made, pretty much everything came from the module in some form or another. I didn't have to really improvise much. I mean, I improvised just like the behaviors of things, but not like I didn't have to create too much out of whole cloth. So I was really happy with that. And I thought you all did a really good job. And particularly in this session, I thought you all did a really good job, like mastering the hunt roll token economy and sort of mastering the sort of interplay between set goals and like your character's actions. So that was all really fun to watch. The scenes were really good. I think my favorite part of the whole session was the combat with the zombies. I loved that. That was a really fun combat. It was super tense and enjoyable. So I really loved that. For wishes, I'm curious which dungeon I'm going to pick because I don't know yet. So I wish to come up with something good. I don't know if I'm going to keep it in Mörk Borg or not, or choose from another game or whatever. But it'll be fun, whatever it is. So those are my stars and wishes. Whoever would like to go next, by all means.
I can go. My stars, I was really impressed with Triss's handling of the fellow. Really impressed with the handling of the fellow who we encountered outside the mouth. I thought that was really clever. And the other part that I really liked was the internal monologue for Nima when she had to smash the heart. That was also really well done. So those are my 2 stars. As far as wishes go, I'm definitely looking forward to the next session, whenever we pick this back up. As with every role-playing game, the resource economy just tortures me. So I don't know if that's a positive wish or a negative wish, but having to make those hard choices of what to do with your money, I wish it was easier.
And what to do with the tokens. I thought you were all very smart to save. Like I knew, so I love that moment when you were all deciding whether to spend the tokens on getting past the necropolis, because I knew what was coming. And I was like, ooh, are they going to pick up on the fact that there's one more thing to do, you know? And that thing is fighting Akünh, right? Like, that's not great. And so I was like, okay, I think they probably made the right choice because it's probably easier to get past the necropolis than it is to fight Akünh straight up. So I just enjoyed that kind of like the decision making. I thought that was fun. Another bonus wish. Blaine or Adrian, do you want to go?
For me, I think the star definitely is in for me, the combat. The whole session was really good, but the combat, and this is a star, I think, both for Adrian and Merwin and for Trophy as a whole. Like, I really love how we were able to, like, how everyone was able to reveal so much about their characters through the kind of narrative nature of combat, where it wasn't just let's roll some dice and see if we smash these zombies. There's a really great interplay of how we were able to reveal stuff about our characters through combat. As far as wishes go, I don't like everything that I really want from a role playing game has kind of been hit on in these 2 sessions. So I don't. My wish would be that we get more of kind of the same that we've already seen. Like, I think it was all really fantastic, and I like that there were some social encounters and some combat encounters and a good mix of all of that.
What becomes fun, what becomes really fun in the second incursion that a group does is the way the Hearthfire stuff weaves back into the incursion, right? The way people start to use those newly fleshed out details about their character into the dungeoneering part. That part is really, really fun when that starts to happen, and it just keeps like feeding into itself like every incursion you do. So I love that, and the Hearthfire exists as this like secondary story in the background, which is kind of fun. So I'm looking forward to that. Adrian, stars or wishes?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I enjoyed our dice luck. That was very helpful in completing this. I also liked, of course, that moment when we went up through the mouth and we encountered this guy, the bone priest, because I mean, it was fun because I wasn't sure whether I mean, Jason gave basically that. You gave that input of this guy thinking we are coming from the death realm, and so I kind of ran with it, and and I found it also interesting because I mean, it was a grim setting, but just like in some horror movies, you have that occasional kind of comedic relief. I think that
I
was
enjoyed the comedy
fun.
relief of that scene a lot. It was
So,
fun.
so I like that. Yeah, I also think the combat was really great. Of course, also because we had luck with the helping twice. I think what I found. I mean, I said that last time. I think this combination about set goals and hunt roll tokens works really well. I'm not really interested normally in power gaming at all, but here I think it works so differently because of that narrative angle. I think that's really interesting, and it's also interesting because it doesn't really produce, at least for me now, a disappointment about not having the big fight at the end. In gold, I think, because it continues, right? I think for a one shot or for like Trophy Dark, that it would actually be like if you kind of cut through the last ring, that would maybe not be so interesting. But because now you go into the downtime and then you kind of pick it up again, so it works quite well. I found that really interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of it. Yeah, I'm also that's almost also star, but maybe wishes. I think what you just said, Jason, about the Hearthfire kind of feeding back into the narrative during the dungeoneering, I think that's also very interesting. I'm very interested in that these downtime mechanics. I'm running Blades in the Dark right now as well, and I think that's kind of coming up in a lot of games now to have these kind of structured downtimes. And here it's even more like it's very narrative. With these narrative prompts, I think it's really interesting to see how that will. That's what I want to see, how that actually feeds back into the narrative.
Well, and like Hearthfire, I wrote Hearthfire, so just FYI, like I'm the author of Hearthfire, and like that part of the game at least. And my goal with Hearthfire truly was I wanted it to feel. I want all those options there, not just as things to do, but like when you're not playing, something to think about for your character, right? It's like, okay, maybe you're not going to answer this prompt right now, but you know that this is something that you can bring in later. And so start thinking about that, right? And even if you don't have it selected in the dungeon, you might be thinking about some of that stuff and just naturally working that part of the story into your story, right? So for me, it's like, I just want to give like, I'm trying to think of the full breadth of a character and what sorts of things you might want to explore with a character, It's a part of my own design process. Like Brindlewood Bay is this, right? Like Brindlewood Bay has this like really, really front loaded this type of storytelling. And so, yeah, I think it becomes much more richer and interesting the more you play, to be fair. But I'm excited to see it going. So we're at time, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.